Hey everybody, this is Dale Luganbill, and you have found the Full Scale Outdoors Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, my guest today is Nick A. Johnson. He is a waterfowl hunting guide. He is a competition duck caller. He's a very good goose caller, and this dude knows a shit ton about waterfowl hunting. This episode is jam-packed with a lot of good tips and tricks and facts and how-tos, and it's not quite as rabbit holey as my other ones have been. We don't go on any major tangents, and the few times we kind of do, we kind of pull her back in. This one is meat and potatoes, man. You're going to want to take some notes on this one or listen to it a couple times. I know I'm going to go back and listen to it. There's a lot of really good stuff in here, and I look forward to doing more of these with Nick. We actually have an idea for the next one. Maybe we'll try to do a Facebook Live while we're recording, so everybody can tune in and you can actually ask Nick questions, and we'll try to do a little more interactive thing. That was his idea. I thought it was pretty cool, so really look forward to doing that one. But let's get to this one right here. Sit down. This is a long one, but it's a really, really, really good one. It's Nick A. Johnson on the Full Scale Outdoors Podcast.
Oh, here we go, boys.
Go.
Ooh, I love that sound. This is a good one.
What were we talking about here?
Yeah, I think you could
Oh, we were talking about V-boards.
decoy anything to a milk jug at times.
At times, yeah.
Yeah, so the V-boards, explain to people what the V-boards are. We're just starting this. We're just going to jump in. So here
We're jumping right
We're
in,
doing
yeah.
it. This is Nick Johnson. So you can let's give him a little bit of backstory.
My name is Nick Johnson, and I'm 31 years old. I live in the North Metro area, Minneapolis, and since I've been about 13, I've just lived and breathed waterfowl hunting. Competition calling since I was 13, and guiding hunts since I was 16, all across North America, Canada, Mexico. Yeah, it's been a fun time.
You're you're kind of a specialist. Like, you're not an all outdoorsman.
No, yep, waterfowl.
Pretty much stick. You don't deer hunt?
Never have.
Really? Never?
Not once.
That's crazy. No interest? Or is it just not time?
Yeah, there's waterfowl hunting that conflicts with that season, so I just kind of
all the way through if you think about it. Because you just got back from Oklahoma, was it?
Yep. We do like a 12-day stint down there guiding hunts with Coastal Wings, and yeah, that was a good time. Tough this year, and the Central Flyway up and down has been rough.
I heard that from just about everybody.
Yes, there's it's day-to-day rough with a couple of bright spots in there.
Yeah.
You see a couple good piles coming out of there right now, but.
Well, I have quite a few friends, and that's when waterfowl season kicks off, which is September 1st for the early goose. That's pretty much what we do. But
right,
we do bass fish too. I'm in a tournament there. So like last year my club had a tournament in September, and I was like, I don't like giving up waterfowl time, but I do like to do everything else. I'm not a specialist, so I'm one of those guys that can do everything moderately well.
Right. Not me, no.
But
terrible at fishing.
but I'm not, but I can't really call myself a specialist at any one thing either. I mean,
Sure.
Obviously I have my strong suits here and there. Like, you see any deer heads on the wall?
Yeah, no.
No, you do not. Got a couple sheds I found, and that's about it. Yeah, so I mean, I deer hunt, mostly a meat hunter, and I know people hate that term, as all the deer hunters are cringing right now, but it's just, well, I've talked about that ad nauseum. Like, I'd like the nice big rack on a deer, but that's not my main goal, and I like to eat deer, so.
Yeah, so we were talking about V-boards.
Yes,
which,
so explain
when
what
we
a
were jumping
V-board
into
is
this
for people
podcast.
that might not know.
A V-board is a device that will float silhouette goose decoys. So they fold up kind of on a pivot, on a hinge, and then they fold out and you snap them into place.
So you can put any silhouette on those?
Any silhouette,
Okay.
anything
I
from
thought they were kinda
homemade, anything you want to put on
Permanent thing, but
there. Yep, no, you can throw whatever you want on there. And
could you put Silo socks on there?
you probably could, actually.
See, I gave you an idea.
But no, those are really effective. Like me, I have a Carson pintail duck boat. It's just pretty small, little fiberglass, 1 or 2 person boat.
Sure.
And I do a lot of migrator hunting on local ponds and lakes where I'll set out like 3 dozen silhouettes or 4 dozen silhouettes. I got plenty of room in my boat for that. Takes 15 minutes to set it up, and I mean, I'm good.
So with the migrator hunting, so there's going to be people that don't duck hunt that might be listening to this or goose hunt. You have like resident geese,
Yep.
resident ducks.
Which are the geese that are there in the summer.
They're there like all the time. Then you have like, I guess, well, so you'll get a weather push that'll push in birds, and they're coming in from
basically,
Canada or
yeah,
wherever.
as soon as birds grow their flight feathers back out in the summer, they're moving. They're moving to new food sources at all times. So mid-August, a lot of birds are coming from the south, actually moving north. You're talking about a lot of birds that are like breeding in Illinois, Missouri, Iowa. They're getting their flight feathers a few weeks earlier than our birds, and they're pushing up to our fields.
Which we call the molt migration.
These are not molts.
These are not molts.
No, the molt migration is teenage birds. So when they call birds molts, what they're talking about are 1 to 2 year old Canada geese.
Okay.
And the reason that is because they start breeding at 3 years. And they have a different timetable. Like in Minnesota here, we'll see pairs of geese, breeding pairs, which would be birds that are like 3 years and older. They start arriving like mid-March, and you'll see them standing on the ice, and they're honking their heads off at each other. They're staking their territory.
Yep.
The molts come through like in the spring, much, much, much later. The molts move through Minnesota in late May. To early June. Right. Yep, late May to early June is when you really see a big push of molts. I mean, there's babies already, like pretty big babies that are growing up.
Starting
and
to
so
get
these
their
are
white
1 to
patch
2
depending
year
on the season.
Yep, and these are 1 to 2 year old Canada geese, and they're moving north in late May, early June. And what they really are doing is following the sprouts. So all they're doing is following.
Oh, they're agriculture as it comes up.
Yep, as the agriculture sprouts north, they're following it like as long as they possibly can, and those birds do eventually end up in Canada in about mid-June. And then actually a lot of the birds that we are killing on migrator days are those 1 to 2 year old Canadas that they move around very liberally for new and exciting food sources.
They just want to eat.
So yeah, starting usually about the earliest I've seen a good one is like September 2nd or 3rd.
A good push.
Yeah, a good migrator day coming from the north. So you're getting birds that are already coming back down south.
Sure.
These would be more like molts and or calendar migrators.
And when the early season was implemented, it was pitched as reduced local numbers.
Yeah.
Now this will be interesting because I want to see if your data backs up my data. I don't have a lanyard with 8,000 bands on it. I do have a honker band. There's a snow goose band there. I got a couple on my lanyard.
Oh, I don't have a snow
and a duck band. But our bands early seasons seem to all come from Illinois, Indiana,
Iowa, Illinois. Iowa's the big one.
We've had one. We had one from Minnesota. It was that I can remember. Maybe there's more, but I do remember one. We shot it like between Pine City and Rock Creek, and it was banded in Rock Creek. So it didn't go far. So that was a local.
Some Missouris, but a lot of Iowas, some Illinois. And you see those on a lot of birds that we kill on molt migrator days, which that makes it another reason to be hunting. So that it's so exciting to hunt those days.
It's so much fun.
You get bands, and you get a lot of these 2-year-old bands and 1-year-old bands that got banded in Missouri, Iowa, and usually like mid-July.
Yeah, so
early July.
They're banding them when they're too young to fly, generally, right?
Yep. So these would be like birds that were juvies last year. They were born in Iowa, born in Missouri, and then they probably went north with their parents that year. They survived their first year, and now the parents left them. They've gone north to breed.
They've mixed in with different flocks.
Now these birds have separated into what are called the molts. Their parents are all gone. Everybody's parents are gone.
And these ones they're not paired up. They
have no interest in breeding whatsoever. The only thing they're interested in is eating bean sprouts.
Yeah.
That's it. And following the best food they can possibly find all the way north into Canada and chilling all summer. And then as soon as they grow their flight feathers, they start moving around again. And
Just looking for feed, just
looking
feeding out
looking
feed.
for new feed. And in Minnesota, a lot of guys call it the disappearing act, like when you found a field in like mid-August or August 20th, August 25th, yeah, like, and then all of a sudden they're gone.
Yeah, that is the tricky part when you're out and you're scouting, you're trying to find fields. Obviously, early season, a lot of people want small grains, but it all depends on when those farmers harvest those small grains too. If it was an early season and they cut those things in the middle of August, come September 1st.
Yeah, and that
they might not be in it. I mean, it's a good chance they're not going to be in anymore. Those sprouts, I mean, they're going to that wheat regrows again. It's going to be 4 or 5 inches.
Your food availability is going to have a huge impact on your season. I mean, you know how like when geese are on a refuge and there's some farmer way outside of town and he had to knock his field down, and nobody can hunt it because it's baited now, but all the geese go there every day. Like,
how do they know?
How the hell do they know?
They know.
How do they know?
Smell it
yes, there's okay. It's a phenomenon, and we can see it on a small scale, but it happens on a large scale as well. So when your general region of the country produces good goose food, you get a lot of geese.
Right.
If your region of the country had a particularly poor year on producing goose food, you're just not going to have as many geese in your area on a year-to-year basis, and it's really flexible, especially with the molts.
And it gets a little sketchy, like you were talking about when they knock it down. Now it's considered baiting, even though it's a normal agricultural practice.
No, because like not harvesting it is not normal.
Well, sometimes it depends on the crop, I guess. I've known farmers that'll just grow something just to plow it under.
Okay, like a cover crop or something like that. So, there's a lot of wiggle room in the federal baiting regs.
I would not even like to risk it.
Because from coast to coast, there's so many different variants of waterfowl hunting. They have to cover so much ground with so many few words.
State to state. Like, you can flood in some states. You can't flood crops here.
Right.
In Minnesota.
You can.
You can.
Yes.
In Minnesota.
You can.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Interesting. I didn't think you could. I always heard you couldn't.
Yep.
Not standing crops or harvested, can you flood, like,
standing corn you can flood in Minnesota because we don't have any more restrictive laws than the federal laws. Some states elect to do more restrictive laws. You can't do less restrictive than federal. You can do more restrictive.
Are there rules on how you can flood crops?
Boy, it does get pretty specific. I was just reading these regs a few weeks
back. I think it would probably have to come from like some kind of pump. I doubt you could pump it from a watershed.
Yeah. When you start talking about like pumping from watersheds, then
like you throw a pump in a stream.
Yeah.
That's got to be.
Then that's a whole different
big no-no.
issue.
Yeah. But if the farmer had a pump,
but like the laws, they even get so specific as to saying like if you knock down corn on just walking to your blind and back, incidental.
Sure.
That's not illegal.
Oh well.
It does get pretty specific as well as being kind of vague.
So just have friends with really big feet and then knock over a lot of. Absolutely. Another beer for Nick. I like his style. We got plenty. There's two more of those, and I got all sorts of other things. I know it's good. This actually is a pretty easy drinking. Beer always seems to be a subject on this podcast, just because I really like it.
Well, we were talking about V-boards. We'll keep going back to it, I guess.
Yeah, V-boards. Like I told you, this podcast drifts and wanders all over the place. So somehow we got into molt migrations and what that is. I'm just trying to inform people that might not be, because the people that goose hunt, they know what we're talking. This is their lingo.
Right.
But if because this podcast appeals to a broad base of outdoorsmen and outdoors people, who the hell, like there could be a strictly water or a walleye guy that's never shot a duck or gone duck hunting in his life, and he's like, "You're speaking Greek. I have no idea." So I'm just trying to bring it back when I catch myself or I catch you using a term that we throw around flippantly.
Yes,
that
the
to
vocab.
Somebody else, like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, what's a migrator day?
What the hell's a migrator?
What's a
day?
V-board?
When I type in migrator on my phone, it changes it.
Right.
Siri has no idea what migrator is. Migration, she's cool with that word, just not migrator.
But this is a subject I definitely wanted to talk about, because for the guy who doesn't hunt a lot of waterfowl, you're not a specialist, this is something you can...
V-boards.
Not V-boards, but migrator days. Okay. But you can be successful on migrator days with V-boards. Migration hunting, you can be so successful just as your average Joe with not a special spot. You don't have a good spot to hunt, any spot to hunt. You can be successful.
Just get out there. Visibility is important, though.
Yes, visibility.
Because these things are flying. These are the ones you see that are specks. That I mean, not by specks. I don't mean white-fronted geese. For those that call white-fronted geese specks, I'm talking the geese are flying so high, they're a speck. You're looking at them and it's like, holy crap, those are up there. You wouldn't think you could pull those down, but they do come down.
They do. So when should you hunt is the name of the game on a migration day, and you're just going to want to watch wind maps, watch cold fronts. And starting on September 1st, keep your eyes peeled.
First northwest wind.
When that wind is blowing cold out of Canada.
And hopefully it's a clear sky.
And it's coming down 2 days from now. You're going to want to just put a spread out. Put a spread out in your backyard if you have to. I'm serious. Like, people do it. You can kill migrators in your backyard. You can kill migrators on the local pond. You can kill migrators in a parking lot.
If you had to choose, would you pick water or a big field?
Field.
Okay.
Not even a big field, just a field.
A field.
The reason is just convenience. We're talking about very vulnerable birds that if they see you, if they hear you, it's kind of like a make it or break it, you know? Like when you're migrator hunting and you see a flock of migrators, that's touchable, meaning you can get some sound to them, and they can get some eyes on your decoys. Pretty much make their mind up real quick,
and they're coming in. Once they have made up their mind, you almost have to fuck it up.
Right, and that's kind of the
try to fuck it up.
Yeah,
because when they're coming, they're coming.
Yeah, sometimes they do this weird thing where they go to like 100 yards and bail. Snow geese do it all the time. Canada geese.
Talk about that right now.
Migrator hunting snows, yeah, but Canada geese do it sometimes. But like you said, they do it when they do it.
We had a moment.
Do it.
We'd got access to a sod farm, which was
perfect,
awesome. And we had a good migrator day, and we pulled this flock down from the heavens. And like I said, you want one that's reachable, but these were like, I can't even believe they can hear us, but we can hear them. So I mean, I guess it
depends on the wind and the air conditions.
Right.
Yeah,
and it was a bluebird sky, just clear as can be. And, they got past us, which you think, oh, we're not getting those. And all of a sudden you see the V kind of break up.
Yeah.
And you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. And then they come back around, and then they start just dropping elevation like super quick.
Yeah.
And we're just staying on the calls, just trying to keep them interested.
You're keeping them right on line. Yeah,
just
that's when the butt cheeks just clamp
and
together.
I remember, like, the moment it set in, they were like, these birds are going to die. I'm trying to call, but it's really hard to call when you're smiling.
Yeah.
Like nearly impossible. And I actually said to them, like, I can't call, I'm smiling.
And with big geese too, it's kind of a rare occasion to get like more than like 10 to 15 in the decoys at the same time. Yep. But you got way more opportunity for that on like migrator days. Sometimes you get 50, 75 of them right in the hole.
It's a sight, man.
They're so vulnerable.
When they just tuck they curl the wings. I don't know how to explain it without showing somebody. They make like a staple shape.
They don't want
they
don't want to circle
across the back. Their wingtips are like almost folded straight down at a 90, and they just sit down. And then sometimes they call what we call maple leafing, where they just dip back and forth, and that's when they really drop altitude. And that gives me a chubby.
I guess like to get into like what's the most effective way to hunt migrators is just go hunting when there's a cold front. Any day there's a north wind, northwest, northeast, from 0 to 10 to 15. You get 20 or above, and geese don't migrate that much, and there is a reason for that. And it's
when the wind is really
because people are like, it's 25-mile-an-hour northwest winds tomorrow. Going to be a good migrator day. Not unless it's like snowing to beat hell where they're coming
from. They're pushing
them
out.
Yeah, where they have to leave.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they'll just sit tight.
It's hard for them to fly. Well, I mean, it's a tailwind, really.
I believe the reason that they don't migrate in the high winds is because they lose their number one safety mechanism, and that's sound. Canada geese' number one safety mechanism when they're moving into a new area is sound, which is why calling is so deadly effective on migrating Canada geese.
Sure.
That's your number one visibility tool is sound. Just getting a cluck, getting a rapid series of clucks into that flock, so all of a sudden they know there's other geese in this area. Maybe they've been flying for 45 minutes,
Sure.
2 hours, 3 hours. Who knows how long they've been kind of V'd up, just kind of making their way south, and they are looking for other geese.
And that's kind of the weird thing. Like, I think about this a lot. Why this field? Like, wherever they left and how long they're flying, like, how many flocks of real geese did they pass up? How many other decoy spreads did they pass up on the way to our field? And they're finally like, yeah, this looks good.
Like, maybe less than you. Maybe
it
think.
could be, but
Yes.
it's just, you know what I mean. But it just seems so random.
It does, and I think there is a little randomness to it because when you migrator hunt, there's migrator flocks that just don't even slow their wing beats down.
No,
They can hear you.
I would say most flocks don't. Most they just keep flying.
Yeah, lots of them.
And then one's like, this one. Let's do here.
Right. We're looking for that flock that looks vulnerable, and sometimes they can see you. They can hear you, and I mean. You can even see the heads turning, kind of peeking at you like, oh, all right, cool. Well, we're planning on going about another 100 miles, but we know you're there. That's cool. Like, and you said maybe they flew over even real geese. They're just not stopping yet. So what we're looking for when we're migrator hunting is them vulnerable geese that are interested in stopping.
And we mentioned it earlier, but I do think visibility plays a big role.
Huge.
And that's why the big flat, like a sod field or a big freshly mowed hay is really good, especially if there's no hills. Like if it's just as flat as can be, no trees, like they're gonna stick out. The decoys are just gonna stick out.
And
awesome. Whereas if they might say you're in a hilly spot and they're flying and you're calling and maybe they can hear you and they're like, and all of a sudden they get past you and they're like, oh, I guess there was some there, but whatever, let's just keep going. Like
right.
They have the vantage point of they can see you from miles away before you even probably hear them. So
right, and we actually started migrator hunting about 15 years ago out of sod fields that a goose has never sat in.
Right. Yeah.
And
all
of a
you
sudden,
don't scout sod fields on a you just
like we're hunting these fields.
just go.
Literally, a goose has never been in ever.
Right.
Ever. And we're all of a sudden we're shooting 6-man limits out of them just because we're watching the weather.
Yeah.
Like okay, we're onto something here. So that was like 15 years ago, and what it's kind of morphed into. Since we've kind of refined our, like, what's effective, what's not effective, is we're setting out 600 to 1,000 decoys in the early season. Like, on that migrator day.
Numbers.
And then we're calling every single person we can that can blow goose call. So anybody, like, hey, tomorrow.
Even flutes?
Everything. Especially flutes. Flutes sound awesome. I do think that a lot of people should go back to flutes.
I agree with you.
Dude, the long honker sounds fucking awesome.
It does.
Yeah.
And there's just some people that they can't grasp the short reed.
You can't get no.
There's just some people that can't.
You sound 10 times better on the long honker than you do a short
I
reed.
almost should have invited.
Go back to
I have
it.
a friend of mine that we've been trying to teach, and he just can't get it. I should have had him come out here. Maybe you could reach him, but he just, I don't know. Either we're terrible teachers, or it's just one of those things. I mean, it's just one of those things. Like some people are really good at math, right? And some people struggle with it, but maybe they're awesome at whatever else.
We can get into a little of that. I do some private.
Nick brought his calls. I made sure he brought his calls, and I don't know where mine is, but
so with like visibility with migrator hunting, the reason it turned into like getting 5 good callers in a field and putting 1,000 decoys out is we're just maximizing to the extreme the visibility, and the calling fits in with the visibility.
Right. Safety in numbers. So I mean.
Yeah, and the decoys is all about visibility too. I mean, like the most famous migrator spot I would say in Minnesota is Migrator Valley.
Right, I've heard of that.
Legends Outfitters hunts.
Okay.
And
which is where?
It's in Hutch.
Can you say? Oh,
yeah.
It's in Hutch. Okay.
Yep, it's in Hutch. I mean, when it comes to migrator hunting, you just kind of want to be in a good flyway.
Sure.
Which it happens.
And there are definitely flyways. Like it's almost like you got rivers, streams, tributaries.
Right.
Like you got like Migrator
Valley. People don't realize that's a 10-acre field.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tiny.
But there's a flow that goes historically just
right.
Goes
Well,
over
actually,
it.
there's like a string of lakes to the north of it. So, like you kind of look at Google Earth and be like, if I was a goose, what kind of terrain would I follow?
If you spend time looking at Google Earth or Google Maps or whatever, and you're looking at topography, you can kind of see,
Oh, absolutely.
You start to read it like a goose when you're scouting.
Well,
so you might see a land that has a ton of agriculture, and you're like, well, this might be really good, but there isn't a body of water for 100 miles.
Right.
Might be good on a migrator day, you know?
Maybe.
But they're coming from, I mean, so you kind of want that mix. Like, you also don't want, at least in my opinion, I could be way off base here, but you also don't want an area that has a shit ton of lakes, but no ag.
Right.
That's going to have some geese in it.
You want to
but
just,
it's not going to have a lot of geese in it.
if you've been around and you've just kind of noticed this area, I've noticed migrating geese on a good migrator day, or I've seen geese flying over this area, historical good migrator days. We might like Hutchinson is a good migration stopping point for a lot of migrating geese. So Migrator Valley is just north of it.
Sure.
So you're cutting those birds off that are coming into town.
Right.
So
yeah.
like I do a lot of migrator hunting out of Minneapolis. There's a lot of geese that make their way into Minneapolis. So I'll hunt on the north side. I'll hunt on the north side,
geese.
whatever public lake or stupid field I can set whatever decoys in. And so yeah, we were talking about throwing out, 600, 500 decoys on early season, which people are like, use family groups. Well, we're not hunting X fields either.
Right.
Those aren't the birds we're hunting. If you're hunting 50 geese in a wheat field, set out 21 decoys in family groups.
You're hunting a normal day. It's not a migration day. It's a normal day.
But
then
here we are.
Then it's a normal day in the day of a goose.
Right.
So
here we are hunting a sod field, and now the mission is to attract geese that happen to be flying through the area.
Right.
And we do use like those big decoy spreads, and we do use a lot of collars, but that is 100% not necessary.
But it's fun.
It is fun. It's a lot of fun, especially it's early season. All your buddies are excited and jacked to go do goose hunting stuff. But my best migrator hunt ever was over 32 decoys.
Wow, that's not many at all.
No, and we knew it was going to start like, it was like a Thursday morning. And there was south winds, but by noon it was switching to north. And a guy I knew said, "Hey, there's been geese in this field. Do you want to go check it out?" And I did, and there wasn't any geese in it. And I was like, "But hey, tomorrow afternoon, the wind switches out of the north. Let's just go set some decoys, see what happens." And there was pigeons out there, so we ended up shooting I bought like some 7-shot steel at Walmart so we could use it while waterfowl hunting.
Yep.
So we shot like 30 pigeons, and then sure enough, man, all of a sudden, like we started seeing a trickle of migrators, and we killed like 7 or 8, just me and another guy that night.
That's fun. See, I'm not a big fan of the giant hunting groups when there's 10 guys.
Okay, why not?
It's chaos.
What's your misconception about it?
Oh, he's already calling me out on this. My misconception. I don't think I really have any misconceptions. I just like knowing, I like knowing what I shoot personally.
Okay.
And I just enjoy. I've done bigger hunts. I just enjoy like the closer camaraderie of a smaller group than the conversation in between the flocks and stuff like that.
I will say that with smaller groups of hunters, they don't break off into cliques.
Yeah.
As much.
Yeah.
Like everybody kind of forms.
If everybody knows,
clique.
I mean, if you're like
20
what you're
guys,
doing, you're like making phone calls, like, hey, we got this hot field, or it's a migrator day, we need some collars, and these are people that maybe you've hunted with in the past, maybe you haven't. So I could see how that could get kind of cliquey if you have this group over here and this group over there, or at times where we've joined groups because we each had permission to a field. And instead of getting into a fight about it, we're always like, hey, you want to just combine forces
absolutely.
here?
Yeah.
And we have even more decoys.
Right.
So
everybody loves a big group hunt when it goes well.
Yeah, for sure. Because
when you make like a 60-bird pile, everybody's happy.
Our small group can't agree on how to set decoys and where to set decoys and which direction to point the blinds, much less when you bring in a whole nother party of people that you just met that morning.
Right. And
so
one
someone's going to get butthurt.
That I do hear a lot about big party hunting is that I don't know which bird I shot, but the reality of like 20-person groups, which
Holy Jesus.
I've done many times. I've hunted 20-person groups. You have to shoot your lanes. Like you're obviously not shooting over your your partner's heads. So you got what is it between 9 and 3? Or whatever it is. For your
personally, I like noon. And
yeah.
As a right-handed shooter, that's the wheelhouse.
Well, each blind is damn near 2.5 feet wide. So you start going 5 feet per 2 people and then 10 feet for 4 people. Like, they end up spacing out to, like, you're pretty much only hunting with 4 other people.
Well, and
Or
that
three-
gets tough for calling shots, too.
Well,
so
it gets...
for 20 people, how do you do shot calling?
If one side of the blinds can shoot, we'll have them shoot. If other side
Do you
of the
have
blind,
one person
No.
making that call, or do you have people spread out either side?
yeah, we'll have multiple
Groups.
shot callers sometimes when it gets that wide.
Yeah.
Because
It's hard to hear.
it is, and when we guide, I like to sit next to whoever else is guiding with me, so we have a good communication base. And I like to say, like, if you make a bad shot call, I'm going down with you. You know, like,
Yeah,
because
Yeah.
if you know, because there can always be like, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Go,
Kill
go,
them,
go,
everybody.
go, go.
Yeah. So like, if I'm going down with you, I'm gonna.
And then there's the bad non-call.
Oh,
Where
well,
like,
that's called
they're
getting greedy.
They're going to make one more pass.
Yeah, getting greedy.
Joel, I'm talking to you right now.
Well,
I'm
everybody-
talking to you, Joel.
Everybody's guilty of getting greedy, and
He really likes some feet down in the pocket.
everybody does.
I like limits. I like, if they're in range, I want to pull a trigger. And I know, Austin, I'm talking to you. I know Austin agrees with me.
I like to maximize the amount of birds we can get from each flock, and I'm trying to determine
It's
like
really
when
fun
can I
watching
call
a bunch of birds fall out of the
Yeah.
sky.
When can I call that shot with this group of guys to maximize that
And it comes
opportunity?
into reading the bird's body language.
Because with some groups of guys, you really should call the shot when you got like 2 or 3 birds.
Sure.
Just those cherries.
Yeah.
Just call it for these guys.
Yeah.
They can.
Especially when you're running guided hunts. And here I'm talking like I've done this, but I haven't. But there are just some people that aren't good shots. And I don't know if it's
Yeah.
because they only hunt once a season or what the deal is.
You
but
run
there's-
into that a lot.
There's like, you put them right on their boot bags and it's boom, 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 and the thing flies away. And you're just, I don't know what else
Part
I
of
can
the
do
business.
for you.
It's-
Put it right there. I don't.
It's part of the business.
Can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, I guess.
Like especially with like snow goose hunts.
Oh, well, that's.
If you see somebody like with a big group of clients or a group of clients, whatever, you're following Snow Goose Guide Services on social media, and you see like a 20, 30 bird pile there, I mean, that's a good hunt.
A lot of shells died that day.
Yeah, I mean, for a seasoned group of like snow goose hunters,
Yeah.
you might be looking at like a 50 to a 75
Yeah.
bird day that is sitting there, and,
Right.
That's just
We
the
used to
nature of
beat
the
it- When we
beast.
first got into snow goose hunting, I mean, we're kind of jumping into a different subject here, but we used to beat ourselves up. But we'd see these guys posting 100 bird days, 80 bird days, and like we'd have a day like maybe we'd shoot, 20 to 30, and we're beating. We're like, I don't know how we can get but there's 3 of us. I mean, it's like if you think about it, like
You should be looking if a guide service is doing pretty good. You should be getting about 5 birds per person per spread for a guide service.
sure.
That's the metric, kinda. So like you got 6 guys. If you shoot 30 birds, it's pretty fucking good.
Right,
snow
that's what I
goose
mean. So
hunt.
like for 3 guys getting a 30 bird day, I was like, if you think about it, if we had 8 guys,
Right.
that probably would have been an 80 to 100 bird day.
And
We'd
you know
have
what?
maximized each. We had 5 flocks that came in.
People don't post the hunts where they sit there from sunup to sundown
Yeah.
and shoot 8.
Yeah, or none.
And guide services too have 5 spreads out.
Right.
So okay, these guys are posting a good picture every couple days.
Sure. So Joe Schmo Outfitters looks like they're successful every single day, but there's 4 of the 5 groups that were out that didn't shoot shit.
Right.
One happened to have birds that worked, so they post that picture.
Or good shooters.
You as the consumer just see this guide company is just killing it. They're posting piles every day.
And there's a lot of, and that has kind of skewed the snow goose guiding business to where people show up and they have kind of mixed expectations.
I think that's on the guides to talk to their clients and be realistic
agree.
about expectations.
I agree. And you kind of got to, sometimes you got to
That's
bring
a fish-
people
that-
back to
that's
earth.
a guiding across the board thing. That's fishing guiding.
Honesty.
That's
It's
everything.
honest.
It's like,
that's called honesty.
here's what you can expect.
Exactly.
Like I have somebody that's inquiring about perch on Mille Lacs in March, which is great. But perch fishing hasn't been great on Mille Lacs for a long time. We'll find some, but if you're thinking you're going to get Idaho Cascade 16-inch perch and you're going to get 20 of them, you're not coming in with a realistic goal.
Right.
It's just, and that's on me to talk to them like, here's the state of the fishery. here's what I can do, here's what I have done,
Mm-hmm.
you know, here's what you can expect. We hope
Right.
for this, but this also might happen, you know, like just
Oh,
be
that's
honest.
perfect, and especially with snow goose guiding, if you've booked with a reputable guide and somebody who's been doing it for a while, trust them. Really trust them that they're doing the best thing to get as many. They want to get as many birds
Yeah.
for you as possible
Yeah,
as well.
for sure.
And
They're,
a
they're
lot
not
of guide
in there
services.
to get paid to just stare at blue sky either. Like,
Right. No, these guys want
they
to.
got into it because they liked it. They like pulling the trigger just as much as the next guy.
But when I like to say you're playing the lottery, you're buying a lottery ticket. A lot of people buy 3-day hunt packages.
I tapped out my beer. Oh, you ready for another one?
I'll have one more. You know,
I'll open yours and then I'll open mine.
yeah, a lot of guys buy 3-day packages, and like what guide services will kind of pitch them is try to have one bad day, one good day, and one really good day.
Yeah.
But 5 birds per person per day.
Like this. We can get this in there. Oh, it's just a wonderful sound.
And if your guide says, hey, this is the reason we're hunting this field, it's a permanent spread, we got a south wind, we think we might kill birds, trust them. And there's some days where you just lose the lottery bad. You're going to go,
Yeah.
you're going to walk out, you're going to be sitting in a permanent spread, there's going to be no wind, it's going to be 18 degrees, your decoys are all frosted and they're all limp dick. Guess what you're going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Shiver. And then
right.
and then
Yeah.
go in for lunch, and you're going to watch birds just sit above your spread at like 200 yards. Just enjoy the show. Just take it for what it
Yeah.
is.
I went out by myself the spring snow goose season and went to a spot in North Dakota, and it's a spot where the field goes right down to water. It's a good historical stopping point. There's a lot of traffic that goes over this certain area.
Mm-hmm.
So when we go there, we always plan to scout and whatever, but it's a good place to just go get there in the middle of the night, set up, and hunt that morning.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Because we know birds use this area. So
Right,
you're
perfect.
almost running
Traffic.
Running traffic.
Yeah.
Well, I get there. There are birds on the water.
Cool.
Yes. I set up. I don't bust them out. It's super foggy that morning. I'm like, this is going to be
You rake the fuck out of them.
murder.
Whack, whack, whack. Right
No,
at
I'm
legal.
decoying. I wasn't jumping, which I probably should have.
You should have.
Probably should have. So I'm ready. Sun comes up. They're not moving. The collar's rocking. I'm at any moment these things are gonna start moving. They're just gonna materialize out of the fog at 5 yards. I'm out here by myself. It's gonna be amazing. Nope. The fog starts to lift. I hear them get up, and they just boogie out.
How about traffic? Did you get any that day?
None.
That's gay.
Nothing. In fact, I didn't pull the trigger for 3 days.
Ugh.
And I scouted. But I scouted.
That's why people sell their snow goose
There's
rigs.
4 directions, and I picked the 3 wrong ones. All the birds were just to the north of me, about 30 miles.
Were you hunting main push or?
I think so.
Yeah, that main push
I'm
is.
trying to think what the time frame was.
The main push is tough because it's all adults and they move.
No, it wasn't that first. It wasn't the first wave because the pond was open.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, that first wave, they stand on frozen ice. We've seen a
Yeah,
bunch of
yeah,
times where they're just standing on ice. There's people driving trucks out going ice fishing, driving right by these things.
Yeah.
That's your adults, your first wave. So
Yeah.
this must have been the main group, which are the most pressured, the most,
Yeah, most
sought
people are
after.
hunting with the main wad.
Yeah. I actually don't mind those leading edge birds.
I don't either. They're you know what? They're hard to hunt, but you get a good show.
But I think I've, and maybe my memory's skewed, I don't know, but I feel like I've done better on leading edge birds.
You haven't.
No, you haven't.
You haven't done no. But they, you know
Maybe
what?
they're more. Maybe the hunts are more fun.
You
I don't
know what? If the hunts, especially if you're using socks, especially if the weather's so fragile with leading edge birds. They're always in blizzards. They're always in freezing conditions.
I keep telling myself that as soon as I see a blizzard warning, I need to head to Dakotas and hunt the blizzard.
What we really want for the Dakotas for a good spring snow goose season is a lot of snow there.
Yeah.
We want them to stall.
Right.
We want some sort of a
Good
snow line.
line.
We need a
Yep.
good snow line for them to stall. And then also,
A pocket.
when the snow melts, it makes a lot of sheet water. And it kinda
makes
just
a
keeps
pain
them
in the
around.
dick to get in the fields.
Oh, of course. Of course, don't go to the Dakotas and expect not to get dirty.
Running up the back roads and pissing off every farmer you see. But, I mean, how else am I going to get there?
Oh.
Can't help it. Your roads are made of dust and not actual gravel.
In the Dakotas?
Yeah.
You have not been to the South.
Well, I'm just saying, like, some of those roads, like, we've been stuck on nothing before. Like, it's just because it's that permafrost, not permafrost, but that frost is in there, and just that upper quarter, half inch is melted, and you just slip around like nothing.
Man, you go down to, like, Oklahoma and Kansas and stuff, a bunch of those roads. Like, I thought we had dirt roads in Minnesota. We don't. We got gravel roads.
We have gravel.
We have gravel.
Yeah.
No, they have dirt roads down there, red dirt.
Yeah.
It sprinkles, and you are sliding uncontrollably.
I've seen that stuff is terrible.
It's insane.
Haven't had a chance to hunt down there yet, but that's on my bucket list for sure.
Where are you thinking about going?
I don't care.
Texas, Oklahoma?
Oh, Oklahoma area. I want to shoot specs.
Specs.
Kansas.
Arkansas is for specs.
Arkansas. I want a nice.
Or Louisiana.
Barred up spec. That'd be nice. I haven't shot one yet.
Yeah, Arkansas is a place for that.
We've been a part of one, but it was a juvie, so it basically looked like a juvie blue. So I was like, big deal. Has yellow feet.
Right.
Technically, we shot one, but I want a barred up one.
Right.
One for the wall. That's pretty much it. I mean, whatever.
Right. I want an emperor goose.
Who doesn't?
I looked it up on the internet. I was like, man, I bet that drawing, they do 25 non-resident tags a year.
25.
25. So I was like, all right. I thought about it one day. I was like, I better Google that. Looked it up. I was 3 days late for the application deadline.
How much is the license?
It's only like $5 to apply for it. I don't know what it is if
Do you actually get it? It's probably not that much, really. I mean,
probably not. I think they had stats on it. It was like 1,400 people applied, and for the 25 licenses. So you got like a 1 or 2% chance.
God, that's badass. You know, I have a sister. She lives in Holland right now, and they just
Let's
recently,
go.
like in the last year, opened up the season on geese.
Yeah.
There was no goose hunting for the longest time.
Right.
Animal rights activists had them pinned down.
Right.
Well, enough planes crash.
Right.
And they're like, yo, too many geese. I don't care how cute you think these things are.
Oh, they got barnacles over there.
They got everything.
Oh, and they also have.
Pinkfoot,
Okay,
gray
you want a
legs.
spec, right?
Yeah, they have
that's
white fronts out there.
That's a greater white front is in the United States.
Are those lessers?
They have lesser white fronts. So they got white fronts that look exactly like our specs, except they're the size of a cackler.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I want one of
They're
those
tiny.
even more.
They're tiny.
Our specs are tiny. Really? The
They're
size of a snow.
Lesser. Yeah, there's the size of a lesser snow
Yeah.
goose. You get over into
I
Europe
have
and
right here.
a lesser white fronted
Nobody's
goose.
gonna see this, but here's my on one hunt. I have my greater, my lesser. and
Greater
my
what? Snow goose?
snows.
Where did you get a greater snow
I have
goose?
my greater. I was in Dakotas.
Really?
Look at the size of this skull, bro.
Jesus. That is extremely
Here.
rare.
I'll bring it to you.
Yeah.
There's a
if you shoot
greater.
a greater outside the
shot it.
Atlantic Flyway, that's
I've shot a couple of them. I have one that's about the size of a honker. So there's your lesser,
Jeez.
and then here's your little Rossi.
How'd you make these skulls? Just boil them or what?
Yeah, you boil them and then
Yeah, those look cool, man.
get the stuff off there and then soak them in peroxide.
That's a trophy right there to get a greater in
I've
the
had a couple of them. Actually.
in the Central
Actually,
Flyway.
when I first started, I shot the same day I shot my first band. I had a greater.
I've seen a neck collar
this thing
die.
was
I've seen a neck collar die. I've seen a blue Ross die. I
Oh,
have not
so-
seen. I have not seen a dead greater.
really.
Nope.
I've seen a couple
They're
of them.
they're
I've
wo-
shot a couple of them.
They're rare. You don't. I don't think.
I knew I should have put. I want to have to find
understand
this
it.
picture. This
They're
thing is
rare,
huge.
rare.
It's huge. Unless it's just an abnormally large lesser. But if you look at that,
No,
I mean, that
that's a
skull
greater.
is
That's a
substantially
greater.
bigger.
Yeah, it's a greater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I shot the first one I had, and I actually jump shot them because they weren't. They were going to this pond right across the street. Actually, I meant to, like, pass shoot them, but which I did technically, treetops. And I shot the one. It's actually a pretty good story. Oh, we're gonna tell this story because this is a good story. So we're freezing our balls off. This storm had come in, like blizzard the night before, filled all the silo socks. So we spent all morning shaking them stupid things out.
Fun.
Nothing's coming to the field. They want nothing to do with the field. They're just going straight to water, frozen water, leading edge birds. So it's just a steady stream going to this little tiny pond. I'm like, screw it, I'm going to go sit in those trees and just pass shoot them. And he's like, I'll sit here in the decoys. It's just two of us.
Mm-hmm.
So I working my way down there, and I'm in these trees, and this flock comes right over top of the trees. I'm like, shit, they're right there. Pull up, boom. And at this time, I had a Mossberg pump that was notorious for jamming.
Of course.
And it didn't let me down on the jamming aspect that day. It's actually back in the days we had Minnesota waterfowler, the forums.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course.
So my name on there became Bam and Jam because that's just what would happen. Bam, jam. And so I dump it. I see him fall. The birds still haven't got up from the lake. That didn't scare him off. It was pretty windy that day. And so I'm fumbling and finally get it cleared. Chamber it back in. I keep working my way where I want to be. Here comes another flock. Same exact path, same exact height. I'm like, all right, I'll take those. Pull up, boom, shoot again. I see the one sail over to the right, jammed up again. But that time, apparently I was too close. All the birds leave, like, or whatever. So I get it unjammed. I walk out there. I see the one goose just sitting out there on the ice. I have no idea how thick the ice is at this point, but I get out there. It's plenty thick. I walk out there and grab it. That's the grader. This thing is a giant. But all this is like my second or third year of snow goose hunting. I have no idea.
Like what you have in your hands?
What I have in my hands.
I just shot a
right.
insanely rare trophy,
like,
whatever.
yeah, I'm like, oh, it's a snow goose.
Boy, that thing's big.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It was huge. It's like, still to this day, probably the biggest snow goose I've ever seen, looking back on it.
Not thinking like, boy, that thing's 1,000 miles away from where it should be.
No idea. So I'm like, all right, well, let's go get the other one. I go, he fell somewhere over here. So I walk to the right, and I'm looking, and I don't see him on the ice. You know, there's snow goose tracks everywhere in the snow, and along the side, and it's just all CRP grass kind of like on the bank, and then it tabletops up onto like a chiseled or a disked field, black field, dirt field. And I'm walking, I don't see, there's nothing here. I'm like, he's got to be somewhere. And I see a snow goose track kind of going up into the grass. I don't think anything of it. I walk past it, and then I just kind of stop and go, why would a snow goose go into the tall grass? So I went back, followed that trail a little bit, started seeing specks of blood. I shit you not. It's like,
blood trail? Yeah.
No fucking way. So I follow this thing, get up on the hill where this field tabletops, and now it's just wind swept. Like, there's some snow, a lot of black dirt. So I'm literally tracking this thing by footprints and specks of blood.
Been there.
I see another little wetland. He's beelining right for that wetland. So I'm like, oh, he's got to be down there. So I get close to it and I get ready to shoot because obviously this thing's on the run. It starts to go down, does a U-turn, and climbs back out. I'm like, what in the hell? I get up. And by the time I get up, like, we both see each other at the same time. It's like one of those cartoon things. Like, both of our eyes are like, really big, like, there he is. But he's too far to shoot. So now it's the foot race. And if anybody's ever done that, when they do a weird thing when you get close to them, they stop running and they just get flat. Like, maybe if I lay still, he won't see me. I'm like, I see you. So anyways, I got him. Flip him over, banned. I was like, no way.
You motherfucker.
Like, no way. So, moral of that story was always try to find your cripples.
Oh, dude, always.
Because you never know.
I don't sleep
for
right.
For days after,
gets out,
I had a song stuck in my head. Band on the run. Ding, 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 ding.
Oh, man.
When
was it? I think, it was this last spring, just last March. We got permission on a pasture, leading edge birds. They're just hanging out there for whatever reason. Probably won't even be back tomorrow. You know, just a bunch on a pasture, but a good area. And they all left pretty close to sunset, and I was like, I'm going to go check it out. It was over a hill. I just wanted to see how we had set our spread. One snow goose sitting out there. I'm like,
no.
For sure that thing's a cripple.
Right.
Here I go.
Yeah.
So it's like a half mile away, and I start jogging. And literally, like, my first step, he starts running.
Oh, God.
So I'm like, all right, I got a mile run now, not a half mile run. And the whole time I'm just thinking, band. I've never been that lucky, though. That fucker was unbanded.
Jerk. Yeah, we've seen a couple dead ones, like, frozen to the ice, eagles chewing on them, and we run out there and check them.
Oh, yeah. You always see, like, one guy on Facebook or something that'll send his dog out on a cripple or something like that, comes back with a band.
One of our buddies found I think a band on a honker. They just found the carcass, and it was banded. Pretty sure.
Yeah.
Might be making that up. I don't think I am, though. My memory's not
I
so
check
good. I'm old.
like in the spring. There's a lot of mallards that die around the Twin Cities. A lot of honkers that get hit by cars.
Sure.
Just
Yeah.
being idiots in the
Yep,
breeding
yep,
season.
yep.
And so I check every bird. I bike all around town. I'll check every dead bird.
Well,
I see.
watching your Snapchat stories, like, there's a few of them that you're like, all right, we only need one more bird or two more birds, and now we're just band checking.
Yes.
And you're making a shit ton of people super jealous because you have geese that you clearly have decoyed into your spread that are basically walking around, and
Yeah.
you're just looking for bands. And there's a lot of people that can't get geese to even decoy remotely close to that. And they're like, you're picking which bird you shoot? Fuck you.
It's kind of like the equivalent of like, so band hunting is kind of like the equivalent of like, I'm not going to shoot the fork, the deer. I'm not shooting that fork
Sure, it's
deer.
the trophy. Yeah, sure.
I came out here for the 10-pointer.
Right, yeah.
Or the 12. I don't.
Well,
yeah,
and-
whatever it is, I came out here to kill a trophy, and I mean, not just hunts where we stopped like one or two birds short, but there's hunts where we didn't fire a shot and we decoyed hundreds of geese.
Just looking for bands.
I mean, my
don't
camera.
have that control.
Yeah, it's tough. It is tough.
I just don't.
It's tough to a point. The more people you add in your decoy spread, the tougher it gets because there's a tension.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, like if there's like
sure,
three or four other guys, like, are they gonna see it first? And like, we should just quit band hunting. Let's just bust these groups.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Don't-
and I'm not totally convinced that you'll kill more bands by band hunting, opposed to just shooting into
A
flocks.
shit ton of flocks.
Yeah,
a shit
because
ton
if
of
you
birds,
just
yeah.
shoot into flocks, by the chance of luck, you get a band here, you get a band there. And by band hunting, those flocks that decoy to 20, 30 yards and they don't land and they don't give you a really good look
Yeah,
at
you
their
can't
legs.
Really see their feet. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we could all busted into them and there was
Sure.
a band there, but I didn't because I couldn't confirm it.
Right.
Yeah, so
But you gotta be hunting with the right group of guys too that are all on the same page. Like,
exactly.
Because you're gonna piss off a lot of people if they're not on the same page.
Right, yeah, like meat hunters that want to just,
Right.
and
Well, and I mean, you shoot a piss pile of geese, so I mean, you have to have come up with some pretty creative ways of eating them.
oh, I eat goose every day.
Yeah.
I had goose for lunch today.
Did you?
Yeah, of course.
I like it. Like you just gotta learn how to make it.
Yeah,
You
that's
can't
a whole.
kill it. You can't just.
Yeah, that's a pet peeve of mine. 'Cause
Well done. Get
Yeah.
effed.
e-
It's
everybody
like,
who posts like,
stop.
what's a good goose recipe?
well,
And
you gotta,
every
you gotta boil the belt and then you just eat the belt, right? That old
yeah,
thing.
Yeah. Or everybody's recipe takes 48 hours
Yeah.
to marinate and to soak
No,
and buttermilk
cook
and
it.
salt water, and I can't do that, man. I gotta eat my geese.
Right.
And I'm not going to eat them if it's not convenient. So I get most of mine ground up into burger,
That's a good way to do it.
and then
You
if
can
it's
put it in anything, hot dish,
oh
whatever.
yeah, I eat
Make it-
goose burger all the
Yeah,
time,
whatever.
and that's what I do with most of mine. And then jerky sticks, give them to farmers.
That's
But I can't do
Really
the
smart.
one thing we brought or we learned is you can't do like all summer sausage and like jalapeno sticks because you will get like $1,000 butcher bill or a $7.
oh yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
expensive.
So
yeah,
the reason
for
we do
sure.
the reason we do burgers, it's so easy to eat and it's very affordable.
Do you mix it with
Yep, I do like
cut it
between
with beef or something?
so like when with venison, if you just bring your goose to a butcher shop, they usually do 10% beef fat.
Yeah.
They'll mix in with venison burger. For goose, you want to look at more like 30 to 50%.
Really?
Yes. So I do 40. And I've tried some like that had 50%, and those were almost a little too fatty, but good for stuff like burgers or meatloaf.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, and then like I do 40%, which is good for burritos, and I call it man medley, man. I brown up the burger, throw in a bunch of seasoning, whatever rice and vegetables I have in the house is getting cooked, cheeses, it's all getting mixed, hot sauces, and I bring it to work. I feed my coworkers with
the
it.
Jerky doesn't last. I mean, you bring a bag of jerky
Yeah,
out and it's
for-
gone.
For whatever reason, too, Goose seems to make some of the best jerky in the world.
It
really
does, and then, which is somewhat ironic because if you overcook, if you're just frying or grilling a goose breast and you overcook that thing to well done,
terrible.
it's inedible.
Yeah,
give it
gross.
to the
Yep.
dog. It's absolutely disgusting. But if you make jerky out of it, which is basically overcooking it to the extreme. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't
It
like the
seems
tree
like it
barky
is-
kind of though. Like
yeah,
I gotta,
yeah. It's just still have some meat to it,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's It just tastes good. It must be the curing or something.
Yeah, I think it has
happens
something to do
cure.
with the.
Well, salt does pull water too, so.
Yeah, I think it just has something to do with the nature of the goose meat fiber, and it's a very lean meat. It's real healthy for you. Not much fat, a lot
It's
of
gotta be super high in iron.
super high protein, but the fibers themselves kind of lend themselves to a
Yeah.
good jerky texture.
Yeah. If you cut it with the bias.
Yeah. And
called.
yeah, so like some of the best jerky I've ever had in my life is goose.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was cooked by like coworkers that don't hunt geese,
Really?
but they cook jerky.
But they like making jerky.
They like to make jerky, and they're like, "Let me try some of this goose out that you get." And I mean, it's jaw-droppingly delicious.
I had a guy that I was working with that he's like a smoke master or whatever, and he wanted to try a goose, and that was in the spring when I was working with him. So I brought him a whole snow goose, and he smoked it. Wasn't a big fan of that.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know
Now, I typically
if it
people
was
call
his cure or what the thing was, but
yeah,
it
probably.
didn't-
Snow
I don't know,
geese are
didn't-
typically pretty tasty.
Dude, they're delicious.
Yeah, people call them the what is it, sky carp?
Yeah, sky carp.
Totally
not
no.
not accurate at all. Again,
Not
this is by
accurate.
people that are cooking them well dead, and it's terrible. In the field, and this so food when you're camping just always seems to taste better. But some of the best waterfall I've ever had was we'll camp like in a field somewhere. We'll like literally set up tents, or we'll sleep in the trailer or whatever. Saves you from having to drive half hour, 45 minutes.
Yeah, to
whatever
the hotel,
rat hole
yeah.
motel that you found that they're gouging you because they know it's snow goose season, and you're right there. I mean, it's fun, and I like the camaraderie of sitting around a campfire and drinking beers and telling stories and doing whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But we just cooked some up, cast iron pan over the fire, olive oil, salt, pepper. It was awesome. We cooked that thing medium rare. I mean,
Right.
it was like melt in your mouth. Like I would challenge anybody who claimed they don't like to eat waterfall to eat that and not like it. Like I'm like, if you like steak, you're gonna like this. Like this tastes good.
One thing I think for waterfowlers to keep in mind too when it comes to improving the taste of your game is meat preparation starts at the moment of kill.
Yeah, and that's for game across the board.
Right.
Any elk hunter will tell you the same thing. Any bear hunter will tell you the
Right.
same thing.
So,
the
like-
moment you get that thing on the ground.
A lot of guys, when they kill ducks and geese, especially in a field, they'll like to put them like they're sleepers.
Yep.
And I'll try to take them and, well, the problem with that is
We do it. We've done it.
their breast meat is facing towards the ground, and now their blood is affected by gravity.
Right.
So all the gravity's pulling the blood into the breast meat.
Sure.
So what I'll try to do is, like, right after we kill them, I'll try to put them on their back. So the blood is being drawn.
So it coagulates and then
away from
then make them sleepers.
No, like I try to keep have a
just keep 'em
spot
out.
for the birds,
Okay.
like behind the blinds or whatever, you know.
Sure.
So, or if you got shell decoys,
Put them under the shell.
put them under the shell,
good.
put
That's a
them
good
belly up under the shell. I do a lot of that, and keep those that breast belly up because, like, you ever clean geese and they got that big coagulated blood clot in their breast. A lot of times it's just because you set them on their breast.
Sure, and that's where it pools.
That's
up,
where the
right
blood
there.
pooled
Yeah,
right
that makes
there.
Sense.
Yeah, so you can make the blood pool on their back ribs.
That makes sense because I heard a long time ago, like a lot of the guys in Canada will with ptarmigan, they'll actually age them, but they always say make sure you put them breast up, and maybe it has to do with the blood, but more it has to do with if you put them breast down. Are you out of beer? I don't have any more.
Of course I am.
I'll have to make a run. Of course I am. He's putting me to shame on these beers over here. I'll go grab some more beers. You tell a story. You got a story in the chamber?
I got a cool band story from
All
this
right,
year.
good. This is going to be cool, so I come back and listen to it. Then I'll know what he said. And go.
Okay. So we take this trip to Bandland this year. We're specifically looking for big geese. I'm not telling you where Bandland is. And we're calling at these 5 geese that look like they're kind of the geese we're hunting. No interest whatsoever. But as soon as we start calling at them, we notice a flock of migrators. And these flock of migrators are eating it up. They're coming down from the heavens. So we're all down in our blinds, faces covered, just hitting them with as many clucks as we can get. And these migrators are just doing it, like making their way down from the heavens. It's taking 60 seconds, 90 seconds, whatever it takes. Our butt cheeks are clamped. This is exciting as can be. And all of a sudden I hear woof, 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 woof. I hear wings. And we were down in our blinds watching these migrators drain into the field, Well, that 5-pack we initially started calling at that looked like kind of the birds we were hunting had responded to that calling when we started calling at the migrators and decoyed without our knowledge. So there's 4 of them landing about 20 yards out perfect, and one of them trying to land on our blinds, which kind of ended up being a theme for that day. And I looked up and just clear as day, right on his leg, banned. There's 3 of us in the field. There's a lot of double bands in this area, so there's a chance there's something else there too. I'm on the far left. That goose was trying to land on the blinds, which is never good. That is too close. It cuts hard right. The only person who has a shot is Jeff. I said, Jeff, kill him. He goes, he's watching the migrator still.
Right, yeah.
Kill him. He goes, kill what? I said, that fucking bandit bird. Ban. And I thought he had it because Jeff's a crack shot, and he's a very efficient band hunter and goose hunter. He's a killer. He came up, and he fucking missed it. And I came out, those 4 that were coming into the decoys, I just out of chance, bang, bang, I killed 2 out front. Mine weren't banded, and he missed that band.
Oh.
And that was a heartbreaker right there.
That's brutal. Oh, that sucks. Can't say I've ever missed a band because I don't know. I haven't had a situation like that where I saw the band as it was flying, so I can't say I had that. But we did have one hunt out in the fall where my buddy Joel, we were working this group of mallards, and like mallards will often do round and round and round. They're doing it this time, and then they pick back up. No, they're doing it this time, and then they pick back up. Like this just kept going, and we're just working this. And then they're kind of making their last pass, or so we think. Pretty sure it was. It actually did end up being their last pass. But before they turned, a single pintail that was mixed into it, nice drake, drops out at like 70 yards, turns and flies straight at us. And he's flying right towards Joel, who's on the far right side. And we're all expecting him to just shoot. No shot call, just like, because it's right there, even though this big wad of like 30, 50 mallards or whatever is working its way around from our left. And so, like, we have one eye on that flock and one eye on Joel. Like, if he pulls up, we're going to, bat cleanup. We're expecting him to shoot. Well, the whole time he's just calling and staying tucked in and watching. He didn't even see it. And so we finally call a shot, we shoot, and we get some birds out of it, and we're all like, why didn't you shoot that pintail, that drake? And he's like, what pintail? I'm like, it literally flew over your boot bag at about 10 yards.
I was covering my face.
That's pretty much what his argument was. I'm like, you're lost because we were all expecting you to shoot. We wouldn't even have been mad at you.
Face mask is a very, very good investment. You can grow a beard.
Beards.
You can grow a beard. I'm very jealous. I'm a face mask man.
I have a how to grow a beard video on my YouTube channel.
Oh, no shit.
I'm sure it'll help, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah, it won't help me, I don't think.
I didn't know I could grow a beard until last year. It was the first time I tried it. I always do the goat, and then as my hair grows out, it like grows in 8,000 different directions. So I never thought I could grow a decent beard. I thought it would just be like look like a straight homeless dude. My dad grew one winter, and it was terrible. So I just assumed I inherited
my dad has a nice beard.
The terrible beard gene from my dad. But I also believe, and this goes for you, at some point in time in every man's life, they just got to let her buck. So I got a mixed hodgepodge of beers in there.
Snowdrift Vanilla Porter.
That's pretty good. That's a twist off.
All right, I'll
'Cause
try
Line
it.
and Kugel
I'll try
knows
it. I'm skeptical.
Knows their beer
I'll try
drinkers
it.
are lazy.
So V-boards.
I think there's a Oktoberfest in there, but whatever. Anyways, so
V-boards?
I let it buck, grew a beard. That's the end of the beard story. V-boards. Back to V-boards. Are we going back to V-boards?
Yeah.
Okay, we can go back to V-boards. I don't like them.
Would you use silhouettes in a field?
I have used silhouettes in the field.
And what's the difference over
I
water?
don't know. They look weird because they're just so they're in the square shape.
So
it's more of a spacing thing. Like here's 4 evenly spaced, then there's 4 evenly spaced, and there's 4 evenly spaced.
You can break
I'm not arguing with you that they work. I've literally watched you on Snapchat kill geese over V-boards. Clearly they work. I'm just talking myself.
Not bad.
It's pretty good, isn't it?
Not
actually?
bad.
Yeah. Good job, Line Kugels. Your vanilla porter's pretty. It's decent. It's a solid beer. Obviously they work. it's just my personal preference when I'm sitting there when birds aren't flying and I'm looking at them. It's just gonna bug me.
Yeah. And, there's a lot of talk about just decoys and their effectiveness. Like, when we started this podcast, we said geese will decoy to a black jug. Sometimes. When they're vulnerable. And that's another thing, too, is that people will say dumb geese, smart geese. There's no difference. Those are the same geese.
Mm-hmm.
There's vulnerable geese, not vulnerable geese.
Pressured geese.
Not even.
So
Pressured geese are vulnerable, too.
That's true. So when do you think realism matters? Or does it ever?
It does.
Is that a marketing ploy?
It's for sure a marketing ploy. 100%. And it's not a bad thing either. I like to look at nice-looking decoys.
I do too. I'm a sucker for decoys.
I like them.
Sucker for
it.
them.
Makes my experience more enjoyable.
Yeah. That's the thing with me and V-boards. Like, if I have an ugly decoy sitting out there, and in my opinion, no offense, if Bigfoot ever wants to sponsor this podcast, I'm all in. But unfortunately, I don't like the way your decoys look. I think
look
is
a big thing. Looks are a big thing for people. But
I have no doubt
in terms
Bigfoots
of like effective
kill geese.
Yes,
no doubt, and they're durable as fuck. I know that.
Kind
Me
of.
Personally, I don't like looking at them.
There's decoys that are comparably durable to Bigfoot
Sure.
now.
Sure.
I mean, that's kind of out the window, but I still believe Bigfoot has more pros and less cons.
As far as a product, I don't really think they have many cons other than maybe space because they're big. I mean, but
and the perfect example of like people liking things is like flocked heads.
Yeah,
flocked heads look awesome.
They do.
They look
fully flocked bodies.
Yeah,
look even better.
Yeah, just
I have avians.
Yeah,
fully flocked.
You got a fully flocked or a flocked head, and you look at it compared to a non-flocked head. As a human being, I look at that and say that looks amazing.
Yeah,
that looks awesome.
I love my avians. Those are the best.
But as a goose hunter, I've never seen some sort of an evidence that flocked heads make any sort of a difference.
How would you even quantify that? Because there's
exactly.
no way you really could. There's too many factors because you can't, just going off
the
of
only way you could
scientific
is
method, like you can't repeat
a hunt.
Because you would have to rewind time and you would have to have the exact same birds, the exact same time, under the exact same conditions, reset the spread with different things and see if, like, it's impossible. You can't. There's no way to prove that one way or the other.
There's not. And that's an awesome thing about waterfowl hunting.
Yeah.
You can always look back on a hunt and say, what could I have done different? But there's never been a hunt where I've been like, if only we had flocked heads.
Right. Yeah. Right.
If only
I will say, if you have like the fully flocked decoys, and this might be completely speculative, but you get like, if it's raining, or maybe it's right at freezing, so like maybe there's a mist, and you get that shine off of a painted decoy that you don't get off of a fully flocked decoy.
Yeah.
I think that matters.
I talked to a group of goose hunters in North Dakota, and they told me they had like 3 to 5 dozen, whatever, fully flocks. I was like, why? And they said, because we struggle with morning dew so much in North Dakota.
That makes sense.
So we kind of just use these like in the early season. I'm like, that does make sense.
Yeah, that shine, when that sun comes up and it's just, light doesn't shine off of a live goose.
They're oily. It kind of does.
Not
and
like
smooth.
Water though.
No,
not like water. I know what you mean. Like if the light hits a live bird, it does. There's a little bit of a sheen there to it, but it's not that like light coming straight back at you,
right?
Like water does.
Yeah, and we were kind of talking about decoys, and I was kind of getting into. I'm a big proponent of having multiple different kinds of decoys. You said, when does realism matter? Well, it matters when it matters,
right?
And I have silhouettes. I have windsocks. I have shells. I like to call my Bigfoot spread. My Bigfoot spread is made of mostly Bigfoots, but it's really just one-piece decoys, like Dakota full bodies.
Sure. Yep. I like the one-piecers.
Yeah, like something you go in there, you grab armloads out of the trailer, and I got about like 220 decoys in that trailer, all full bodies, all full body one-piecers. You know what I mean?
I do like that. That's another thing I like about the avian full sizes is the collapsible bases. Those are pretty slick.
Yeah, until they break.
Haven't had that happen yet, but I'm sure it will. I'm rough on my stuff, but
and just use what you can that day. Use what you think might be effective that day, and every decoy's
confidence, right? Like you're not second guessing yourself.
Yeah.
Use what you like.
Have have tools. They're tools. There's right tools for the right job.
Right.
Some jobs I want to use Dave Smith's, which would be the most realistic, most expensive goose decoy on the market, of which I own a lot. I own a lot of Dave Smith's.
2,000 of those unless you have deep
Right.
pockets.
They retail, once you get them to your door, they're just over about $100 a piece.
Yeah, they're basically hand-carved decoys for the most part.
I've got 72 of those.
Jesus Christ.
So that's a tool I have for a job. Sometimes I want to use that tool. But I've got like silhouette goose decoys that are 30 years old, and I'm killing geese over them.
Yeah.
Lots.
Freshen them up, little black paint, little white paint. Now, I did hear, I was part of a seminar at the game farm one time, and this made a lot of sense. I think it was Thrennen that put it on, actually. I might be wrong about that. Anyways, it doesn't matter. When picking the decoy for the field that you're hunting, he basically broke it down to, if it's a multicolored field,
right,
you want a two-colored decoy because it's going to stick out visibility.
Visibility's huge, yeah.
And then, so if you're in a monochrome field, it's all black.
Right.
Then multiple colors work. Now the realism and the feather detail is going to stick out.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I mean, I've seen fields, and it makes sense. If you're in a wheat field, especially if it's like kind of a disked up wheat field,
right,
and there's every color known to man going on in there, your decoys disappear.
They do.
Like, you walk back and I can't see anything but a couple blackheads.
Yes, that's
straight black and white silhouettes, not the real geese silhouette, like straight black and white silhouettes. I think
I've got a bunch of black and whites. I use black and whites.
I
use black and whites. I use Dave Smith's. I use shells. I use everything because you never know where you might be hunting. In Minnesota, I will say one place we really struggle to goose hunt in Minnesota is plowed fields. And that's going to be your most difficult scenario to hunt. And people tend to think it's the hide, but it's not. It's the decoys. Your decoys are invisible.
Sure. Yeah, no, they do disappear.
And we do, I'll do a lot of hunts, like guided hunts and other type of hunts where we got 3, like buddy hunts where there's 3 good callers. And one thing I've really noticed about hunting in plowed fields, you can attract those geese like on a line just based on your calling.
Yeah.
They cannot see your decoys.
It's the same. You can't. It's hard when you're scouting and you're scouting a chiseled. You can't hardly see the live geese.
No.
So
you see like a flock land in a field and you're like, oh, some
Where'd
geese
they
landed
go?
out there. You put the binocs up. Oh, there's 500.
Yeah. And it's only because they're moving. You see like a head bob up or a wing flap or something.
Right.
That gives them away all the time. But as far as the live geese decoying to even other live geese, they disappear. So they're probably honing in on the sound.
So when it comes to like
then
realism versus numbers, when it really comes down to it, the most important factor for any goose decoy is visibility. That's it. If your decoys can't be seen, they're pointless.
Yeah.
That's why like full body mallards, right? For field hunting, why do they make a hen?
Right.
That's an invisible decoy.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Think about it. But they do make them, but generally you get more drakes than hens in a decoy pack.
Well, it just doesn't matter because at 45 yards or 50 yards in the air, a mallard cannot see your camouflage decoy.
Right, yeah. They're literally
a hen mallard
designed by evolution to not be seen.
So why are you paying $8 or $12
for an invisible decoy?
For an invisible decoy, exactly. Like it's not helping you.
Way to go, Nick! You just tanked hen sales across the board.
The only exception to that is shadows, which are far more visible than decoys. Even any goose decoy that you can buy, if you can get a nice flat field. If you can get a nice flat field that'll cast shadows over it well, your shadows will make a huge difference.
Sense.
And a lot of times
people
won't put their silhouettes facing into the sun. But if I got a field that will cast a big shadow, I will, because that shadow
makes sense.
That shadow is way more visible than the decoy. I want a shadow.
That's a hot tip.
I'm going for shadows. But when you get like to plowed fields, you lose your shadows.
Sure.
Everything's broken up.
And it's kind of mix them up, point them in different directions.
You lose your decoys. I mean,
you lose your decoys.
When it comes to hunting plowed fields, I will do everything in my power not to. When I get invited on a hunt, my first question is the field plowed? If somebody calls me and they're like, hey man, Nick, you want to come tomorrow? I need a caller. I got 1,000 geese in a field. Is it plowed? I'm not excited until you answer that question.
Right.
Yeah, it's plowed. It's plowed field. I'm gonna make pancakes.
I'm gonna go ahead and sleep in. Thanks.
Yeah, sleep in. You're gonna shoot.
I generally don't sleep in.
You will shoot
hunting
geese,
is
but
better. Hunting is better. Than
okay, you
sleeping
got
in.
You got 1,000 geese in your plowed field. Have fun seeing 1,000 geese flare off you tomorrow, or not really see your decoys circle around you confused before they leave.
And you think, what are
and
they
then
flaring on? Do you think?
Your blinds.
Okay, because you earlier said it's not the blinds, it's the decoys. That's problem.
That's the biggest problem.
Okay,
that's the biggest problem because they can't see your decoys. It is
really hard to hide.
They don't get a bullseye. You want those geese to kind of have a bullseye, like where they want to land, as far out as possible.
Sure.
The further out you can get them to picture their bullseye, like if they're looking at this field from a mile away, they can see every decoy. It's a yellow or a green field. They've almost kind of like put their bullseye right there. They're already aiming for it.
Yep. I put that anywhere.
And if you just have calling and they can't see the decoys, they're coming for that calling.
Yeah, they're going to pinpoint
They're
the sound.
curious. They're curious, like, what the hell's going on over there?
Right.
There's geese there. I know there's geese there. I can hear them. Where are they?
I can't see them.
So now they're coming over looking. They haven't picked their bullseye out.
How about a half dozen snow goose decoys?
Helps.
They're going to see like
big
that
time
white.
Big time helps.
And it's realistic. I mean,
anything.
I was scouting just this fall, and I found snows mixed in with my honkers.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Early season.
If you're hunting a plowed field, throw some snows out. Throw anything out, man, because
something to take the focus off of you.
And a lot of the decoys these days are really focused on like these. They almost have like hyper feather detail, which looks kind of cool, like with Dakota and with Avian.
Avians, yeah.
And it's just a little exaggerated.
Oh, yeah, for little.
It's pretty exaggerated.
It's exaggerated for sure.
But there's a problem with that, is that it really is an effective camouflage.
Yeah, and there's also a reason for some of the exaggeration. There's a legal reason for some of the exaggeration.
Oh, really?
Patent laws. I believe it's 20%. You have to, like, if you're making a decoy, and it's tricky because you're making a decoy that's supposed to look like a goose, right? Now another company wants to make a decoy and look like a goose. Well, they're going to look pretty similar.
Right.
A goose only looks like one thing. So to avoid issues with patent law, I believe that they have to be 20% different. So there needs to be a different size. So all things come in: beak size, head shape,
weird
feet color. Like there's engineers that are just figuring out.
All those
brown shade. Like it's 5%. This brown is 5% more red than theirs. That tacks on to the fact that our decoy is 5% bigger until they get 20% different. Boom, now they have their own decoy.
Every single decoy that comes out of China is manufactured on the same street.
I did not know that.
Yeah. That's why decoys are getting more expensive these days too, because customers are demanding higher detail. Labor is getting more skilled. All these factories are right next to each other. Some lady
talking to each other.
Yeah, some lady who works for Greenhead Gear in that factory.
Sure.
All of a sudden, Avian is offering her a little extra money. This capitalism is working against us as goose hunters in China, man.
So the one lady's making Greenhead Gear for $3 a week.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the lady down the street's making them for $5 a week,
yeah.
rolling in it.
I guess all them factories, I guess, are right next to each other, is what I've been told.
Crazy.
So, the labor's kind of getting driven up on that, and us as hunters are demanding a higher quality product too.
Yeah, the price goes up and they're paying it. I mean,
right.
I mean, they're gonna charge what the market will allow, and if you keep, I mean, the kind of the capitalistic recipe, if you will, is to keep bumping that price up and see when they're like, nope, that's too much. I haven't really hit that ceiling yet. The keeping up with the Joneses aspect of outdoorsmanship, this is across the board, fishing, hunting, you name it. You got to have the latest and greatest.
Did you see the new DOA decoy?
Probably not.
Just got released this week at SHOT Show.
I definitely have not seen it.
Looks good.
Yeah, I bet it does.
Yeah,
How much?
I'm not sure.
They probably haven't put a price.
Real good color on it. Real good color. They got increase that size on that DOA.
Yep. Got to make it a little bit different. 20%.
Right?
Hey, pass me one of them snow drifts. Perfect. Thank you, sir.
So V-boards.
V-boards. Are you selling these things?
No.
I have a feeling you're selling these
I have heard, though, that they're not selling them anymore.
Really? Who made them?
the company I buy them from is Sitting Ducks.
All right.
Sitting Ducks V-boards. I think my buddy Sean called them because he ordered like 6 dozen or something. And I think they said, like, we're not going to run the mold anymore. And we got like 200 dozen left.
Wow. Like I said, I personally don't really like the way they look, but I also personally watched you kill birds over them, so obviously they work. You know, it's whatever. I mean, are they pretty easy to put out?
Super easy. Yeah, that's why I use them.
You just
like when it, all right,
click
realism.
for them in there, toss them out there with the weight, and you're good
right,
to go.
Yeah, like if I can get away with doing a goose hunt as easy as possible, that's the way to do it. If I know I can, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
So, like when you're hunting vulnerable geese, migrating geese, like I'll use those V-boards over water, because the number one safety mechanism a goose has while it's migrating is sound. And we started this podcast off by saying that you can decoy geese to black jugs. Sure. And I don't believe that those geese think those black jugs are geese. I think
it just catches their attention, perhaps.
I think they believe their ears more than their eyes.
Sure.
So a migrating goose is extremely vulnerable to sound. You're calling at it, it hears it, it's coming in, it sees your black jugs, and it's thinking to itself, okay, those are black jugs.
But I hear geese.
I know there's a goose there.
Yeah.
There's a goose somewhere around those black jugs. Sure. So you kind of like get away with it.
And we're also dealing with a brain that's pretty small.
Right.
And they're running on instinct. Like these aren't, they're not having a conversation like, what do you think, Bill? Does that sound like a real goose to you? You're trying to trigger that instinct of this is good. Let's put down here. So I mean, as hunters, I think we overthink things a lot.
And like you said, like the snow goose decoys in the plowed field. Some people might say, well, doesn't that look weird? There's no snow geese in this area.
But they're going to see it, and they're going to focus on it.
A goose doesn't think like that.
Right.
A goose doesn't think, oh, hey, Bill, isn't it weird 6 snow geese are here?
Bro, the same time, when's the last time you've seen a snow goose in this field?
Yeah.
Never. Yeah, that's my point.
Right.
Next field, please. Check, please.
No, yeah.
Pass on that.
I don't think it works like that. Like, it's.
No, I think it's a distractionary technique. Or just, like you said, get them to see the field.
Right.
And then hear the calling. And then come to the calling. And that's where calling comes in. This is a great segue for you to talk about your calling.
Calling is huge.
It's massive, huge. And you're
how
many awards, what do they call it? Is it a championships have you won?
For contests, I'm more of a duck caller.
Okay.
For goose calling, I've won a couple of contests. For duck calling, I've been ranked as high as like 9th in the world.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I'm more of like
I was ecstatic to take 10th place out of 25 teams this last week in an ice fishing tournament. So 9th out of the world.
I think the reason though that I gravitate more towards goose hunting is because it's so interactive with calling, and it's so much fun to call at birds.
More notes or more words, if you will, in air quotes, with geese than ducks, and maybe that's
and they're
just
more
'cause
reactive.
We don't understand duck calls, duck languages.
They're more reactive to calling.
I would agree with
Ducks
that.
and geese are reactive to calling in a similar way, where
now, in the spring you can decoy a Drake mallard to only a call.
Oh, I used to walk to I used to walk to middle school. Every morning it was like a 2-mile walk. You know, I was 12, 13. I'd bring a duck call in my pocket every spring. And as mallards would fly over, this is in like New Brighton. So this is like the suburbs, like where the mallards are showing up to breed. I'd start calling at ducks, and by the time I got to Highview Middle School, I would have usually 12 to 20 mallards following me.
Just following you.
Yeah.
I had one. I lived in Montemita, and I just saw one flying around. I grabbed my call, and I'm not a champion caller by any stretch. And back then,
you don't
I
have
lived
to be.
There,
yeah.
I wasn't. I was nowhere near
Quack.
that. And but I could make some sounds on it. So I did that, and this thing just set down on the edge of my lawn, and I just kept quacking. He literally beelined up to the house. I'm calling from inside the house through a screened window, and he is pacing back and forth on my sidewalk. And he'd get past it, and I'd just go, and he'd turn around, come back the other way, get past it, I'd quack, and he would just do this. And I'm just torching this. Finally, the actual hen showed up and quacked while she was flying. He's like, "Oh, there she is," and he took off. he blew that
Like,
pop stand. But
when I walked to school, like, you'd get 5 houses down and just hit a quack, and they'd move 5 houses up right up to you.
in the fall, that is
Oh,
not
no,
the
no.
case.
Yeah, spring.
Yeah, this
sorry,
is in the
sorry.
spring. In
Yeah,
the
spring.
fall, not the case.
Nah, not the case. No.
Not the case at all.
No, it's crazy. I used to set out like 2 hen decoys in my yard and hide behind the bushes. And I would call ducks into my yard every spring. And I remember my dad's like, "You're never gonna get a mallard to land in this yard." Well, yes, I will. Yes, I will.
Absolutely.
And I remember one time he bet me $20 I couldn't. I'm like, "You are stupid," because it's like,
there's $20 for you.
yeah, and I did get that
Yeah.
$20
Well,
too.
I believe in Alaska, at least they used to. I don't know if it's the same, but they have spring subsistence.
They do.
hunts.
Yep. I think that's resident only.
Yeah, resident only.
Yep.
And I believe you can't taxidermy them. Like, this is for food only.
Yeah, meat hunters.
Yep. And I've heard they literally throw out 1 or 2 hen decoys. That's it.
Ooh,
And
fun.
just quack.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
That'd be
Dude.
fun.
These drakes would just commit suicide. I know they would.
Ugh.
I mean, I've called them in
I'm
with
pretty
no
sure there's-
decoys.
I don't even know if there's a limit in that subsistence season.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I'm
on
pretty
that.
sure there's
God,
not.
that's fun. We should move to Alaska. One season, that's all I need.
Plus, they
Just
give that
experience once.
way more emperor goose permits.
Oh, I bet. Well, and then you got eiders and harlequins and
Oh, no. Somebody asked me if I wanted to go shoot a king eider this year. And I was like, yeah, for sure. They're like, yeah, it's like a $3,000 plane ticket. I'm like, not so much.
yeah, and then it's $5,000 when you get there.
And then I got to get it mounted.
That's the thing. I actually have a connection that if anybody's interested, I can hook you up because if I book 5 people at $5,000, I get to go for free. So I'm all in. If you guys want to, that's lodging and everything. I mean, that's a big price tag, but it's a trophy hunt like anything. That's a drop in the bucket. If you're a big game hunter and you want to go hunt doll sheep or you want to hunt the desert big, that's a drop in the bucket. Those things
Sure.
are $20,000-$30,000.
Oh, minimum.
I mean, as a waterfowl, you do that. It's a trophy hunt. You're
Yeah.
not going up there to eat eider.
Right. Yeah,
you're
right.
snail and clam
Getting
eaters.
something cool for
No,
your
thanks.
man cave.
Yeah, this is as
And
I
a
have
fun-
my
and a
one
fun
wood duck
adventure,
and,
yeah.
and my gadwall. A gadwall is the first.
That's pretty dope gadwall, though.
That was my first. So this picture behind it is actually where I shot it.
Oh,
And I blew
nice.
it up. Yeah. That was Nebraska, Lewis and Clark Lake. That was an interesting hunt. That was a hunt that almost didn't happen. We went down there with the trailer for snows and honkers. It was in the fall, obviously, because I shot a duck. Couldn't find anything in Nebraska. All the snows were getting up off of Lewis and Clark and flying in north into South Dakota, which season was closed.
Right.
So we drove around. We almost got on a big mallard feed. I almost had permission for it. And then as I was talking to the wife, and then she's like, well,
Never
maybe
talk
I
to the
should
wife.
talk to the husband wasn't around. Like, I almost
No,
had it.
they
She
never
almost
say
had
yes. They
it. We
never-
almost had it. But it worked out. It was better.
It's either neutral or negative. It's
Because
never
I
positive.
think it was only one giant wad of mallards using this field. We didn't see any geese. So it probably would have been
It probably would have came after legal
it'd have been
shooting
one
time,
or
too.
one
Yeah.
and done.
Yeah.
One big flock you shoot and then we don't see anything for the rest of the day. So then we couldn't find anything. We drove hours, hundreds of miles. Finally, we're like, well, we're screwed. We've seen all these birds using the water. We're like, well, maybe we can rent the water was low. We could set up on a sandbar. Let's just if we can rent a boat somewhere. So we Googled, there's places that rent a boat. They're all closed for the season. This is late season. These are all resorts. We're basically on our way out of town. We're going to stop at this one place. They weren't technically open, but the owners were there. We're like, hey, you have any, a rowboat, anything? And they had a canoe that they were going to rent us. And we're like, we'll take it. Ran into town, bought a dozen duck decoy floaters. They didn't have any weights at the sporting goods store, so we had to run to Walmart. We just got big egg sinkers and some braided fishing line.
Sure.
Mocked it up. left all the feeder decoys in the trailer, took all the sentries and the resters and the sleeper shells, and we went hunting and we scratched out a few birds here and there. And then so this bird here, we kept watching birds just dive into this particular spot. It was just across the main channel. Kind of hit a lull in the day, and they just keep bombing. I'm like, I can't take anymore. I gotta go see what's going on over there. So hop in the canoe, paddle over there, and there's just area was frozen except for one small, like 50-yard hole, and it was absolutely shit stacked shoulder to shoulder with birds.
Nice.
And they're just in there having a party. So then the debate was, do we jump shoot these, or do we go bump them out and set
Ooh,
up?
you could shoot over your limit so easy at doing that, though.
We chose to jump them.
Ooh, did you?
Which we did.
Did you shoot over your limit?
No, we did not.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Of course you didn't on the podcast.
Yeah, right. No, we actually didn't. Like, we were pretty smart about it. Like, we popped up, kind of let them get up, pick our birds.
Pick a couple out, yeah.
Pick our birds. And, yeah, I think we took 4 or something like that, or 5 maybe. And then we set up. And we're like, not sure they'll come back, but they're at least using this area, and they weren't using where we were at. And we just – there was like some muskrat huts that we sat in, and there was this tall like tule grass, and we just bent it over and covered ourselves up. And sure enough, they started trickling back in, singles, doubles, triples, and it was just spread out for the rest of the day. All
nice.
Day. It was awesome. It was perfect.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then I dumped that one, and my buddy Joel goes out and gets it. He's like, "Well, you said your goal was to get one for the wall. I think I got yours."
Yeah, that mallard band there, that's from like a day like that.
Nice. My only mallard band is was actually like somebody's personal one, has their address in that. Some Stillwater. I never did call it in. Yeah.
What?
They banded it.
You got a private band?
Yeah, private band.
For a mallard?
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Cool. I never did call it in. I meant to.
I saw a hen pintail die in Wisconsin one time. It had 63. That was the only thing.
That's the only number on it?
Yeah, 63. Private band, something. Pretty cool. You don't
This actually had like the address, not the full address, but it just said Stillwater, Minnesota, and then a phone number.
What?
Yeah.
I've never heard of a Stillwater. You got to show me that before I leave.
Yeah, it's in the it's in my old pickup.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. So then that's a gadwall of all birds is my first.
Gadwalls are pretty. They don't get the.
They do not get
gadwalls
the respect.
Gadwalls and shovelers don't get the respect they deserve.
Well, it's hard to get a good shoveler unless you want to go to Mexico.
I've been there.
Been to Mexico?
Yeah.
Damn it! I need to do that because they are. In the spring, snow goose hunting. Dude.
Oh, they're gorgeous.
Do you with your friends in the spring season have the they should sell a trophy tag?
Yeah. We've all talked about that. Yeah. One duck.
Are you listening out there, wildlife managers? You could make a shit ton of money. You could charge $50
per duck
per tag.
Yeah, right.
For one drake of any species.
Yeah.
That's it. Just one.
Yeah,
you're not going to damage. You're not going to damage
shoot it
the
off
population.
the road. Just
one. And people will be picky as fuck.
Just go and you just pick one out of the ditch.
That's it.
Yeah.
Just one.
Just one.
Like, come on, let's do this. You can make a shit ton of money.
Or you could go to Mexico and shoot 50.
Yeah, but it costs way more money.
It does.
It costs way more money. Yeah,
so
no,
in
shovelers
Mexico,
are great, dude. Shovelers.
Yeah, we
fully
did.
Plumed out drake shoveler is a beautiful bird.
We did 2 cattle pond teal hunts and 1 pass shooting shoveler hunt.
Any cinnamons?
Yeah, we killed like 3 cinnamons.
I have seen with my own eyes a cinnamon in Minnesota.
No shit.
In the spring.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense. We get weird stuff in the spring.
Yeah.
Really weird stuff.
It's odd. I was at our cabin. We have a cabin up by Pillager on the Crow Wing River. And I was just doing something in the yard or whatever, and this bird's just flying straight down the river. And because it's a duck, I'm looking at it because I'm obsessed. And as it gets closer, I'm like, is that? No. And it just, I saw it for a full like 10 seconds. I'm like, that is a cinnamon teal drake. What the fuck? Huh. That's cool. You don't see that every day.
No. I had a ghost honker land in my spread last year.
What's a ghost? Oh, like
an
white one?
like kind of
a leucistic?
Yeah, leucistic or whatever it is. Yeah, but if I would have shot, we were saving like 1 bird for a band, and it landed in a group.
There was one I wanted to hunt in the Stillwater area. I was an iron worker, and we were working on the new Stillwater crossing.
Yeah.
So for the almost 5 years I've been out there, I would see her every year.
Really?
Yeah.
A honker?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that must be her winter.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's her winter
There's
range.
albinos. There's albino mallards that winter in Minneapolis.
I refer to her as she because she's leucistic. I named her Lucy. Could have been a male. I have no idea.
But
Whatever.
I've got photos from 2003, the first year that Avery came out with their decoys. And I custom painted some and brought them down to Eastmoor Lake in Fridley. And I got photos of albino mallards.
I had a whole I had a 6-pack of leucistic decoys delivered to my house.
Oh,
Actually, not delivered. I bought them. They were Dakotas.
oh, really?
Yeah, they missed a step in the painting process. I took them out, and they're all like powdery gray. And actually, were like if you like licked your finger and you put it, then the color would pop out. So I sent him an email, and good shout out to Dakota, dude. He took care of it. Like,
Oh,
I
yeah,
can't
yeah.
remember
Bill's good. Yeah,
dude, he
Bill's,
was great. Like,
he's good
customer
shit.
service.
Yeah.
He was on. He's like, really, take a picture. Like, I've never heard that. Take a picture of it. I took a picture. I saying, he's like, yeah, they clearly missed a step in the painting process in that. He's like, we're out of stock, but as soon as they come in, I'll mail you a new box.
Dakota's good company.
Picked them up, dropped them off, picked them up, do speedy delivery, whatever. Like, it was great. Like, nothing but good things to say about the customer service on that. So,
should we get
thumbs up to
into
Dakotas.
like some controversial shit?
Stir the pot a little bit before we were gonna get into calling.
Some anti, like common sense type of stuff that I do.
Like, what do you mean?
Okay, like if you were to set up a honker spread, most people do like a J
Oh, I was gonna bring this up earlier. The shapes.
I
think we're gonna be on the same page with this. The way you've got
yeah,
into this. But
I
go,
do.
I'll let you.
A lot of my shapes are blobs.
We can be friends.
Blobs, I find, and with a dense center.
I think what we as humans do, and it's just in us, is we pick up on patterns, so we set patterns.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, like when you set a decoy, and you got an armful of them, and you're setting them out. Take 2 steps and you set one out. You take 2 steps and you set one out. And when you're done, if you're not paying attention to what you're doing, every decoy is perfectly equally spaced.
Yeah.
In lines, in a grid pattern. It is about the most unrealistic thing you could possibly put together.
So, like, one thing I've described my decoy spreads as, like, imagine you pattern a shotgun and it patterned like shit. Yeah. So, like, you got clumps. You got clumps of pellets.
I actually work to, like, when I'm setting decoys, I'm very cognizant of trying to be random.
Yeah, cluster them here, cluster them there.
Planning to be random, for as weird as that sounds. Like, I tried, like, yeah, like I'm going to put 3 close together here, and then I'm going to spread these zones out over here. And then, like.
So, we were talking earlier about the bullseye.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've ever skydived.
Have not, but I want to.
It's
I'm
kind
afraid,
of
I'm afraid to, and not like why you think.
And I did, and the only thing I could think of was waterfowl.
I'm afraid to because
when I was
think
doing
I'm going to get addicted to it.
There's a bullseye in a field. That's where you land. And when you're coming down from outer space, you pull your parachute, whatever. Skydived a couple times. Like, that instructor is directing you to that bullseye. I mean, from like 1,500, 2,000 yards away. You're already like making your kind of approach.
Right.
You're lining up on it. Geese need the same thing.
Do the same thing.
They need that bullseye.
So you're giving them a hole, or are you giving them a group?
I'm giving them a bullseye.
We can so be friends because
the hole is not your bullseye.
Say
that's not a bullseye. A hole is not a bullseye.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you so much.
A bullseye is something a goose can see from 400 yards away and be like, I'm aiming for that.
See, I think we have a different reason why, but we do the same thing. Like, people are like, we got to leave them a hole. And I'm usually arguing, like, why?
Why?
Have you watched geese land with other geese? Yeah. They filter in.
The entire
one
field.
Drops here, one drops there, one drops over there. They don't look for the opening.
If they were that desperate to land in a field, the kill hole is literally like the entire 98 acres I don't have decoys on. That's a kill hole, right? I've got decoys in like a 40-yard circle.
Such a liberating conversation. You have no idea.
Like, well, do you think they didn't land there because the decoys are too tight? Oh, I don't know. Why the fuck don't they just land 100 yards away then? I don't know.
Because sometimes they do, though.
This is a 100-acre field. They can land wherever the fuck they want.
Dude, there are geese that do that. They're just like, they're coming, and they put down 150 yards out by themselves. Like, you fuckers.
My philosophy using blobs with dense centers, you want that dense center to be the bullseye. I want my bullseye to be between 15 to 20 yards, maybe 25, in front of the blinds.
It's away from the blinds.
Away from the blinds. People are like, there's no such thing as too close. Yes, there is.
I believe there is because, again, it's that kind of sleight of hand that, like, why you would put snow goose decoys in a honker spread, like getting the attention off of you.
The horseshoe spread results in a lot of shots that are too close because you think your bullseye is the kill hole, but it's not.
You're the kill hole.
You're the kill hole.
You've packed
like
them
where
around you.
where your decoys are around your blinds.
The other thing we talk about, and you have to have had this conversation, so it'll be interesting to see what your theory is on this. Sitting completely out of the decoys on a crosswind instead of wind over your back.
Yeah, do
so
it all
that
the
they're
time.
not looking at you.
Yeah, do it all the time.
Thank
You got to be a little careful when you hide out of the spread. That's where like the DSDs will really shine. Or the Dave Smith decoys are very high quality, realistic decoys where you can let that do most of the work.
Because you are still going to hear the sound, so it's going to
Right.
kind of come in how you're when to shut up and when to keep.
Exactly.
You know?
When do you want your decoys to do the work, and when do you need to convince them you're real?
The rule of thumb, and take this with a grain of salt, like people say, call it the tips.
Yes, especially if you're out of the spread.
Right.
And even if you're in the spread, like with stale geese, man, I have had some stale geese pick me out. Last season, it would have been the 2017 season. I solo hunted, band hunted, set out probably 100 or 120 Bigfoots, somewhere in there, not my whole trailer. I picked a nice little spot to set up, gillied all up, I'm band hunting, this is serious. We're landing birds, we're checking them. And I had this flock of geese working, and they're coming in, and it was probably 40 birds. There was 500 in this field the night before. And I was sitting there, butt cheeks clenched, goose call on my lips, eyeball on legs, and I just go, cluck! Just hit him with one cluck, just kind of, you almost want to, just to feel, just to feel confident about yourself.
Sure.
Them fuckers flared so hard you wouldn't believe it.
Just on the cluck.
On one cluck. Wow. But they picked out one blind in ghillie blankets. I mean, it wasn't even a blind, it was a backboard, and they can pick out they can pick out where that sound comes from.
Yeah.
And that's going to make a huge difference on stale geese. But like we were talking earlier, some days the black milk jugs.
Yeah.
And there's just a difference between vulnerable geese and not vulnerable geese. That day I was hunting not
vulnerable geese.
They were not vulnerable. And I need to have every
box checked off.
Every box checked. And even though I did kind of have every box checked, I'm hunting solo, no other blinds. I've got decoys around me. I'm off to the side even. I mean, those birds get conditioned.
That's tough, yeah.
Yep, and what stale geese really means is geese that have been in your area for about 5 days or longer.
They know their terrain.
They know the terrain.
Their life.
Yeah.
They know what's dangerous and what's not.
Yeah. Once and
it could be by default. I wrestle with this theory too. It could just be by default. Are they educated, or did you just already kill the ones?
That could be too.
That are susceptible to calling more than the other ones.
Yep.
Again, it goes with that. I think we overthink things as hunters. Are they having a conversation? That's clearly a hunter. Or did that geese flare last week too?
Yeah, and I think
because he just flares. Is that just what he does? And the ones that don't flare have already died.
And there's geese that fly over. There's geese that fly over fields of real geese.
Yeah, I've seen it a million times.
Why
Especially
don't?
geese.
What was wrong with that spread?
The most. You call it confidence building if you will, but it's more of made me feel better about myself is when I was scouting snow geese and there was, 15,000 in a field, giant flock comes over, circles them, and peels out.
Mm-hmm.
Literally did what they did to us in the decoys. We're like, what are we doing wrong? We need to change the spread. Are we well hidden enough?
Right.
They are not landing with live geese.
Right. And that's a big part of
we got to be easy on ourselves. Let's not take this too serious.
That's a big part too of waterfowl hunting is knowing when you really don't have to change anything.
Mm-hmm.
Geese will come out sometimes, super cold, clear mornings. Let's just say, in Minnesota, and they're just not decoying. You're not seeing many birds. What you are seeing isn't really working. Do we need to change the spread? They were in this field last night. No, they're not feeding right now. It's cold and clear.
Right.
It's the morning. They're just stretching their wings. They look at you. They're not necessarily scared of you. They just kind of lock their wings. They go, that's interesting.
Yeah.
and then they go back
And
to
tactics change as the calendar changes.
Definitely. And
Because
the
like
weather.
you said, it's like when it gets cold, when it gets real cold, and it's clear, they're not going to fly right away in the morning.
Right.
You might as well sleep in.
Never think about geese in the terms of what they did yesterday. Only think about geese in the terms of what are they going to do today,
Right.
based on your knowledge of what geese do in that weather conditions.
Sure.
Because yesterday was cold and clear. They didn't feed till 4 p.m. Then at 7 p.m., clouds rolled in. The temperature maintained all night.
Right.
In fact, it started getting warmer. There were south winds overnight that switched at 1 a.m. Now, the peak high temperature of the day is at 11 a.m.
They're going to move right
They're going to
away.
move at 11 a.m. in those
Yeah.
clouds at peak high temperature.
Sure.
And there's a lot of reasoning for that. Like when the sun is out, the geese like to let it do its job.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean,
It melts fields.
that, and they're trying to keep their water open.
They're trying to keep their
Stuff's
water open.
freezing. If it's a really cold day and it's sunny, they're going to sit in that water
Yep.
as long as they can
Yep.
until they have to go eat.
A little splotch of black dirt, that's a 1-inch diameter on a cornfield. If you got full sun that day,
Burns it right off.
yeah, it doesn't matter if it's, it doesn't,
We had a day honker hunting where we had to change our blinds like 3 times. Started off with like snow spray. We didn't have covers. We used snow spray because we just had snow. Then midday, it was like half and half. So like we're kicking snow off of our blinds. By the end of the day, couldn't have any white on our blinds whatsoever.
oh yeah,
And we
And-
shot some in the morning,
right?
and then nothing in the middle of the day,
Right.
and then the main we shot a shit ton.
Why would you buy
in the
snow
afternoon.
covers anyway? We live in Minnesota. You'll never need them. yeah.
Global warming, bro.
Yeah. I don't know how many times I've been in that situation where I'm like, I need 4 snow covers by Saturday. And I'm like ordering, I'm paying,
Right. Well,
I'm
that's the
paying
thing.
for
It's like,
express shipping.
You can get that snow in October.
Right.
Some years.
Yeah, how did I not see this coming?
Right. Who knows? You may
Damn
not
it.
ever need this year. What's a snow cover? We just now got like a dusting of snow where it would matter. Season's well over.
So like the blob decoy theory,
Yep.
I want that bullseye to be 20 yards in front of me. And I want those geese to try to work to that bullseye. Usually like when you got a big cluster of decoys like 20 yards out in front, instead of a big open space out in of decoys 20 yards out in front, the geese are like trying to get as close as they can to their
Sure.
to the bullseye that they originally
Yeah.
picked out. I've seen a lot of geese that will like bounce over a spread
Mm-hmm.
and like try to like squeeze into the decoys. And if you watch like YouTube videos of goose hunts, just pay attention. Pay attention to the videos you see. Are geese landing in a kill hole, or are geese landing amongst decoys?
Almost always.
It's
Always. I have seen them land it in the hole a
in
few
the hole,
times.
yes. But I
But-
used to think it was 50-50. I was like, yeah, sometimes they land in the hole, sometimes they land in the decoys. I've drastically changed my opinion on that now to where I pretty much think it's like 80-20, like 80%. Even when you're shooting at geese that are over your kill hole, that's because they're moving towards your decoys.
Right.
So when people run a horseshoe spread, which is a great spread to run a lot of days, but I find that some people, they run one spread and they adapt their hunting situation to the spread. You should adapt your spread to your hunting situation. You know, like
Yep.
don't try to make your spread work. Run a spread that works.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They're just
And like
geese can't spell. So you're
Right.
running a U, you're running a J, you're running a
So-
like they don't just throw geese in a field.
so you got your U out in front of you, and most people are sitting kind of at the apex of it.
Right.
in a cluster of
Yep.
decoys. So there's several problems with that spread. And it's a great spread a lot of days, but notice this. Notice this if you see these problems, make adjustments. Especially because a lot of guys are very stubborn about like running a U-shaped spread, and that's all they want to do. Geese that will approach like from the hard left will land on the hard left on your U-wing. Geese that approach from the hard right will land on your hard right. Guess who's getting shots? Only
Right.
people on the right.
Right.
If they land on the left, only people on the
with
left.
the decoys.
You got usually with a U-shaped spread, you got a lot of decoys around your blind and behind your blinds. You're getting a lot. If your geese are coming right up the center, you're getting them trying to land too close. They're not trying to land 20 yards out front, 15 yards out front.
And I've seen that a lot. That makes a lot of sense because I've seen it happen where we call it they overshoot the pocket, which chances are they actually are trying to land on your face.
Yes, yeah, or behind you even.
Or behind you,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So that's why that's why we think, they overshoot. Like, this is their life landing.
Yes.
Flying and landing.
Yeah,
You think they really overshot? Oh, we came in a little hot. They were trying to get to where you didn't want them to.
They're good at this. They're good at it.
That makes 100%.
Yeah, so like when guys set their blinds up and they camo them really good, which a lot of guys are very focused on their
super
camouflage.
picky about that,
Yeah, so they're doing good. A lot of guys are doing really good on their camouflage. And geese are not seeing their blinds, but they're still trying to land either like too close to the blinds or even behind the blinds. And you really want those geese to lose their speed. And they don't lose their...
And in that, like you talk about making that dense target.
Mm-hmm.
And I think by default that happens over the blinds because people like to use decoys to break up their silhouette of their blinds.
Yes.
Well, if you're doing a good job of blending in your blind, you shouldn't be worried about your silhouette. So
yes,
get those decoys away. Have some, but don't get them away from you.
Even none.
You're even not like I'm
none.
all on board
Yeah.
for none. Like whatever takes the focus off of me.
Typically, I feel like the geese try to work their way towards the densest part of the spread, and they will land in the most convenient location as they work their way in. They do a lot of bouncing, and
let's get into calling a little bit. When do you base your calling off of like what the geese are doing?
I start slow. That's the only rule of thumb.
Because there's days where like they're not talking.
Not talking,
Like
but
they come in like silently, little tiny moans. Like
yes, yeah.
barely audible clucks.
I do very little moaning.
So you do you mimic like what they're doing?
What people will
That's
call like the
unfortunate for
feed
your
growl, like the gur gur
girlfriend.
gur gur
Yeah.
gur gur. Yeah, I don't do any of that. No.
That's usually when they're backpedaling out.
Yeah.
If you've ever listened to a goose, like when you get busted, you hear that.
Yeah, I'm a
"Fuck."
cluck and moan type of guy. Like here, let me grab my calls.
Here we go. We'll see how well this pans out.
So, I do a lot of sequences when I goose call. Rule of thumb: always start slow. Just see how they react. Get the sound to them. See how they react. If they need more, give them more. If they don't need
And
more,
what dictates if they need more? If they're just not turning,
Not
if they're
reacting,
not, if they're
yeah,
not, they're
yeah.
just flying. You
Yeah.
haven't. They're
Especially
just
on
doing what
like
they do.
especially on like migrator days, or if you're running traffic, or these birds aren't coming to your field. You're just trying to let them know, hey, there's decoys over here. If you want, come on and land with us. And like for X field situations, when the birds are kind of
Before I
coming.
get into that past me on their snowdrift.
All right, yeah. When birds are coming in, there's not a
Sam Adams, but I'll take it.
not a lot of work you really need to do in terms of calling. Line them up. Like geese they jump off the roost. Who knows how far away it was? Maybe 500 yards, maybe 5 miles.
Sure.
They're coming over the field. Cluck, 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 cluck. Okay, that's a visibility thing. Now they know what line to look for decoys. They see the decoys are coming in. But like for traffic, for migrator days, anything like that, general rule, all calling, start slow. And so what I'll use is a lot of cluck moan sequences where I can start slow and build if I need to, and then slow down if I need to.
Sure.
So I'll be like, something like that. Where
That sounds good.
right, like, or I do a lot of like moan clucks, like. See how you can like vary that
you're
tempo?
You're not putting a bunch of voice in that.
Some.
I put too much voice in mine. I'm not sure.
We could do a lesson.
We could do a lesson. Work my way into a free lesson here. My buddy Joel will say I need it,
But no, I have been doing like private tutoring and private goose calling lessons, which has been really rewarding and really educational.
that's cool. So how
for me.
if somebody wanted to, I mean, we'll tag this at the end, like how people can find you and just send you anything. But let's just throw out there right now too, like if somebody was interested in doing that.
Call me.
Just get a hold of you.
651-262-6468.
There it is. All right,
651-262-6468. But yeah, I do private lessons, and it really, really comes down to fundamentals. Like when the problem with like goose calling.
Are you a back of the tongue person or a tip of the tongue person?
I'm a back of the tongue guy,
Okay,
but it doesn't matter what you
too.
are. It doesn't matter what you are.
What feels. I mean, it's like what you're comfortable with.
Right.
But that's,
the problem with like YouTube and the problem with like goose calling instructionals in general is they don't teach fundamentals. They don't teach the fundamentals that build into the note you're trying to achieve. So people are like, how do I do a spit cluck?
bad grammar was pretty good.
It
I
was.
thought. It helped,
yeah.
It helped me out.
Yeah, Scott
for
does a
sure.
great job. Yeah.
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 So if anybody listening to this, there's a DVD out there called Bad Grammar.
By Molkier Goose Calls.
Molkier,
Yep.
yeah,
Look up
and
Molkier
it's-
Goose Calls. That's a great one.
He breaks it down. Like, he really gets to the mechanics of, like, what your tongue's doing, how to
Right.
build up that back pressure.
Right.
I think it helped me for
Yeah.
sure. But with that said, with something that wants, like, a coach, if you will, which makes a
Right.
ton of sense. Like, yeah, sure, you can learn to play guitar by watching YouTube videos, but if you have somebody in that room going, no,
Right.
do this,
Right.
like, watch me, like, that's going to make it a million times better. So that's kind of what happened to me. Like, I watched Bad Grammar, and I kind of got it a little bit, and then we had a mutual friend that was a hunter, and he goose called, and he's like, well, show me how you're doing it, and he's like, try this, and then he kind of showed, and I had that person, and like that, my goose calling got 25% better.
Yeah, personal interaction is the best compared to like trying to figure it out on YouTube.
Yeah.
But like the problem with YouTube is like they're like, how do I do a spit cluck or a spit note? Spit note would be like tia. Something like that. But when these YouTube videos tell you how do I do a spit note, they just tell you do tia into your call.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What's a
All right.
tia?
Yeah. Yeah. Do tia into your call.
Tia.
Tia. Okay. Well, I already have been trying that
Right.
and failing.
Yeah.
So obviously that's not working. So like what I do with people is I go through like, okay, what's the fundamentals of a spit note? Where is this tia coming from? How are you controlling your call? And when it comes down to like fundamentals, there's just a certain number of like notes and sequences you can learn that are going to train you to control your read. And more important than learning how to say tia into your call is learning how to control your read at will. I want it to be low note. I want it to be high note. Something like that.
Just more, you're putting more air in there.
Right.
To make it higher.
Yeah. So like a honk or a cluck is a low note to a high note. Like people say who it. So that's like the most basic learning block of goose hunting. But a lot of people can't get that break in the call. Like
Yeah.
a lot of
the
times
one
people
buddy
go
I was
like,
referring to, that's what he tries to do.
Yep.
He tries to he raises his shoulder trying to get like
Right.
he's putting more air. I'm like,
And a
I've
lot of
tried
guys-
to like cut the air off, it'll crack.
Right.
Like just stop the air, it'll crack on its own.
right. And
you
some
just
guys
can't get it.
Some guys are getting their clucks on a short reed goose call by accident. So, like you said, they're cutting off the note so short. If you cut off your note fast enough, you can kind of get like a half-ass cluck.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you go like ha-lick, like
Yeah. Yep.
something like that. A lot of guys can kind of get to that point where they're breaking the note over, but they're not really sure how they're doing it.
Yeah, they're not controlling the read, like you said. They're not.
Yeah.
It's coming on accident. They're not really
Yes.
intentionally making it crack.
Right.
It did crack,
So like when I
but
teach,
you didn't make it. You didn't intend it.
I won't like throw out too many secrets without like paying me, you know.
right. No, that's
But
fine.
like the basics. The
I'm all
basics
on
of
board for
fundamentals
people
are like,
making money.
like when it comes to learning a goose call, what you want to learn how to do is learn how to make a low note and hold it. Hold it.
This is driving my dog crazy right now.
Learn how to make a high note. Learn how to break your low note to a high note and hold it. Once you can hold a high note, learn how to do low note to high note, which is what I call like the ambulance siren. Like,
There you go. Sure. That's
So-
like an English
yes,
siren.
yeah, in English, like, yeah. So I'm like rolling the call from a high note to a low note without ever cutting the air off. So that's the fundamentals for learning a rolling double cluck. A double cluck is high note, low note, like this. That's a double cluck. A rolling double cluck doesn't stop the airflow. So it'll be like, people be like, how do you do a rolling double cluck? Well, look it up on YouTube, and there's 50 people that'll tell you go, whip it, whip it. That's all you have to
Sure,
say. And
yeah.
Whip it, whip it, whip it. Yeah. All you have to do is practice
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Whip it. Okay, cool.
Piece of cake.
Okay, but until you learn how to master a ambulance,
Sure, making it going high low, making it
high
crack
low,
when you want it to.
high low, high low, making it be a high note when you want it to, low note when you want it to be, and then rolling it over back and forth without ever stopping your airflow.
It's kind of learning your instrument.
Yeah, exactly,
Because
exactly.
because even each call is different.
So that's like what the goose call lessons really consist of, is like breaking it down to the fundamentals that you're lacking. What fundamentals do you need to work on to be able to achieve this note? Because forget about how you do this note. You can't do the fundamentals of this note.
Right.
So
sure.
And if you can, you're doing it accidentally.
Right.
So let's narrow down where you're hitting that accidentally, expand on it, make it longer, and put some control into it. Where are you hitting this note? Where are you hitting the high note? Where are you hitting the low note? There's a sweet spot, you know?
Sure.
It's different for every person. Back tongue, forward tongue.
Right.
Different for every person.
So
But-
people getting into goose hunting, do you recommend the flute first,
Yes.
or just jump
I
into
totally do.
a short reed?
I totally recommend a flute.
I didn't even do a flute.
I think
I went straight
I
short
think
reed.
80% of people should go to a flute that have a short
And
reed.
stick with the flute.
Yeah.
I think I probably agree with you. I
Because
got
on those
a
days,
couple friends that shall remain nameless that I
Right,
be
on
like,
those-
how about a flute, bro?
on those days when geese are vulnerable.
Although I will judge you.
Don't screw it up.
I do judge you if you're blowing a flute. You should know that.
Yeah, that's true too.
It's just a skill. It's just
But
a skill
there's so
thing.
few
It's the-
people now. There's
yeah.
so few people that show up with like big rivers now that like sometimes when people show up, I'm like, oh, nice.
Cool.
Let me hear you. And they blow like a honk or a cluck. And I'm
Well,
like,
there's one note you can.
yeah,
make on
yeah.
a
There's
flute,
like,
basically.
who-it,
Yeah.
who-it, who-it. Like, I'm like, let me hear you do that. And they're great at it. And I'm like,
but with that
do
said,
that, do that.
on a
do that.
short reed, like I said, I'm good. I'm not great. I can make goose sounds out of it. I know what I can do with it. I make those notes. I stick in my comfort zone,
Right.
and it works. I mean,
I find
I
the biggest thing with goose hunting, like for meat hunters, tempo. Find a sequence that you can adjust the tempo on. Cluck moan, cluck moan, cluck moan, cluck moan, cluck moan, cluck moan, cluck.
yeah,
cluck,
that
cluck, cluck,
rise
cluck.
and fall, like,
Rise and fall.
and that comes with listening to live geese.
Yeah.
I think like it's a territorial battle.
yeah.
Like they're getting, hey, this is mine. No, I want to be there, but this is mine. This is mine. This is mine. Hey, okay, fine, bro.
And it
fine,
just-
fine. Okay, I'll be over here. Fine. All right. But I
makes
kind
it
of want to still
easy.
be over here. No, you're not gonna. I said I want to be over here, and then it just builds up again, and then
Right,
bro,
yep.
back off, bro. So like that's what's going on. So for people to kind of picture in their head like how to talk to geese, it's keeping that mentality that this is a territorial battle. They're not talking to each other like, hey man, there's corn over here.
Right.
Come get some. No, that ain't what they're saying. Like, bro, I found this. If you come here, I'm gonna kill you.
Well, start slow.
They hate each other, but they flock together. Geese hate each other.
Do they?
Yeah, I believe they do. I watched it. Was one winter was down in Northfield, and it was
Yeah,
at a
yeah,
birthday
yeah.
party or something, and there was a shit ton of geese.
Yeah,
It
that's
was
a good
cold.
late season area.
They're in the snow. This was right in town, so obviously you
Yeah,
can't,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
whatever. But I just sat there and I watched them. And as far as you want to talk about decoy spacing, if you're running like a loaf spread, and this is my theory, you can call bullshit if you want, and you're running a lot of sleepers, your spacing dictates on how far their neck reaches. Because I watched these geese, and as one would kind of walk through sleeping geese, if he got within neck reach, he got reached. And they were plucking feathers out.
Oh yeah.
It's like they hate each other, but they flock together. They have their bubble.
They do.
Don't
Yeah.
like that bubble being infringed. There's going to be an altercation.
But there's exceptions too.
Probably. I haven't seen it personally.
But yes, mallards and honkers they will stack on each other
They will.
and
at
land
times.
on each other.
Yeah. I think the mallards more so than the geese.
Definitely. Like I feed mallards in my front yard.
Yeah, I want those videos are trippy.
It's fun. It's awesome.
It's hilarious.
I live in Fridley, and I got Rice Creek. Rice Creek is maybe only 100 yards from my house.
Do you think they know what corn looks like?
Yeah.
They have to, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because you dump a pile and they're like, they didn't feed there yesterday, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Hey, corn!"
Yeah.
And just
So the mallards
commit
in like the
suicide to get in
Minneapolis
there.
area, yeah. I think what they're doing is like they're bouncing around from feeder to feeder, from feeder
Bird feeder, bird feeder,
bird feeder to bird
Makes sense.
feeder, yeah. And like people put out a lot of corn for deer in my neighborhood, and then the ducks are hitting it. I don't get any geese in my neighborhood, but if you go like 3 to 4 miles south, there's some really big railroad tracks where they do a lot of grain loading, and there's a lot more open area.
Sure. Yep.
And there's
I think I know
geese
what
in
you're
there.
talking about.
Yeah, in Minneapolis there, yeah.
Yeah.
Off University.
Yes. Yeah. There's a fuck pile of geese.
Yeah, there's a bunch of geese there, but no geese in Fridley up by me.
That's hard for them to get in. It's like
It's too
be like a
difficult.
timber goose
Right.
hunt where they're dropping straight down.
and the
which
geese-
I have seen them do to get to water.
Right?
Not so much feed, but they'll
Yeah.
dump into a water spot like that sometimes.
Yeah, and my spot's just a little too tight. I mean, the mallards, like when they leave my spot, sometimes they will go like 500 yards probably, like up the road. They'll fly up Rice Creek Terrace,
Go the roundabout.
and then they'll like find a break in the trees,
Sure,
and they'll just
then
shoot up through the
shoot up.
trees. Yeah, and mallards, like, man, I've had those mallards in my yard for like 5 winters now, and you want to talk about a weird animal. Just a weird, and
Yeah.
you were talking about how they do mallard things. I call
Yeah.
it mallard things, like
Mallard
where they,
things, yeah.
where they just circle.
Yeah.
They circle
just
and
what they do.
circle. That's just what they do.
That's
and I
just
mean,
what they do.
they are
I don't know
such-
why. I feel like they're just wasting energy.
they are such a curious animal. And like sometimes they'll circle a cornfield for 30 minutes and leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, they won't even
So
land.
diver ducks do the same thing. They'll just get up, make a hot lap around the lake, and then put back down. And you're like, what? What
Yeah,
are you doing?
like these mallards, aren't you hungry? You circle for like 25 minutes. You haven't fed all day.
Right.
But yeah, it's given me a lot of really cool insight into mallards and their behavior and the sounds.
Watching live birds is, I don't know how.
Invaluable.
Yeah, I don't know how you put it. Like, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I don't know if there's a word for it, but invaluable works. Like, it's just so important. Like,
You get to know them
as a hunter, you're trying to fool them. So learn them, learn their language, learn their body language, learn their patterns, study them
Yeah.
in the off season. Like,
And
what do they do?
and that's why I say don't base your hunt today on what the birds did yesterday.
Sure.
The birds flew.
You know, I don't think a lot of hunters do what like a lot of fishermen have been doing for decades, and that's like keeping journals.
Okay, yeah. I'm not a fisherman, and
the fish bit today on this barometer using this color at this speed at this depth at this calendar
Mhm.
date, right? If you can replicate that, so you find yourself, you keep a good logbook, you keep a good journal, and you can go back. Now, I don't do this, let's just be clear, but I probably should. If you went back and you say you had a tournament coming up, You're going to, whatever. So what are the conditions for tomorrow? Blah, 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 blah. Look through your notes. If you find something similar to that or exactly like that,
Right.
that pattern should play out again.
Right.
Unless
Exactly.
there's a factor you're not aware of, like maybe the bait fish died off that year or for whatever reason, and so they're on a different forage or something. But there are always some X factors. But I think you can eliminate a lot of the guesswork. I mean,
Here's the thing,
it's a
though.
science, right?
You can learn a lot about waterfowl and what they do in certain weather conditions on that day. But the weatherman,
Oh, he's never right.
that son of a bitch, that
son of a
motherfucker. and with waterfowl too, where
Right. How many times you sat and feel like, I thought it was supposed to be sunny.
it's
It's been overcast for 4 hours.
with waterfowl too, it's
actually
so
raining right now.
It's so crucially important. Weather is so
That's what drives
crucially
it, like
important.
everything.
And we can touch on a couple of like generals. Sunlight. We can touch on sunlight for waterfowl and like how it affects them. Like,
I would rather hunt on a sunny day.
it depends. Sunlight makes waterfowl inactive.
They decoy better, it seems, though.
It does, and it makes your hide better because you get shadows,
Sure.
and your shadows can help conceal you.
A lot of
And-
people use shadows as an excuse, though. They're like, our blinds are casting too much shadow.
Yeah, but if your blinds are casting shadows, then you can break them up with decoy shadows.
Okay.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Why not?
Do it.
And
Just
with
get
shadows
6 full-size swan decoys, and you're golden.
with yeah, with shadows you can hide your blinds better. You can
Sure.
if you're doing backboards with no blinds.
Actually, the swan thing just gave me an idea that I totally should do. I should get some crane decoys. Because where we hunt, we get a shit ton of cranes in early season.
Where?
I can't tell you.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, right. West, east,
No.
north.
It's in the state.
Nobody knows where we're sitting right now.
That's true. Some people do.
Only like 12.
Yeah, only like the 8 people that are listening. No, there's a lot of cranes in the area, so I actually think crane decoys would break up lines
Right.
wonderfully.
Right. Well, why not?
Shit, we're getting
Let's-
crane decoys,
let's-
boys. You listening?
Let's talk
Stock
about let's talk about grass hides.
All right. Totally do it all the time whenever I can.
Yeah. My best band hunt ever was in a canola field in Canada. And a canola field
Haven't done the Canada trip yet. That needs to happen. Is it cheating like everybody says it is?
no.
It's like
100% not. No.
just limits daily
Nope.
without trying.
Nope.
You just show up and there's dead geese in the field waiting for you.
Nope. Mm-mm. It's like goose hunting anywhere else.
Yeah.
Yep. And like, okay, the grass hide. I always get this question posed to me. How do I hide in this field? How do I hide in that field? How do I hide in this field? Grass hide. Grass. You
Just make a grass clump.
make a grass clump. My best band hunt ever in Canada was in a grass hide in a canola field, and this field couldn't have been more uniform. There couldn't have been a worse hide. I'm like, well, there's really nothing else we can do except just pull a bunch of ditch grass, cluster our blinds. You put your blinds
Tight.
shoulder to shoulder,
Yep.
and you're just a grass hide. That's it. And I've done that in dirt.
It's not unnatural.
It's not unnatural.
You see it. Like
You see
sometimes
it.
there's a irrigation pipe or there's just a spot they missed or
And there's a difference. There's a difference. Okay, so people get confused about how to hunt geese because they get confused with invisible and unnoticed. So there's a difference when
Big difference.
when it comes to your hide. So when I am going for an invisible hide, it's typically like a field with a very coarse texture, or some other spot I can put the blinds that has a very coarse texture. Coarseness is the key. If it's not uniform, if it's different colors, different textures, we can hide in there really well. Like we're talking invisible. Uniform is where you can't
it's
hide.
tough. You stick out.
Anywhere uniform.
So don't try to hide.
You can't hide. It's impossible.
Right.
Okay, if you were to walk out, you walk out of your bedroom in the morning. There's 6 lumps in your carpet. The carpet color is perfect. The carpet texture is perfect.
But there's lumps.
There's lumps. You can see those fucking
Right.
lumps clear as day.
Yeah.
Why? Because your carpet is uniform. It's the same thing of a goose flying at 400 yards in the air, 300 yards in the air. They're looking at a uniform surface, and any deviation in that uniform surface is noticeable. So, when you hide in a cut wheat field that isn't plowed, are you invisible? No. Not in the least sense. You stick out like a sore fucking thumb. Does that mean geese won't decoy? No.
No.
It doesn't. It doesn't at all. Because there's a difference between unnoticed and invisible. If you're unnoticed, you're still good.
You're not a threat.
You're not a threat. You're not threatening.
This clump of grass isn't a threat.
The decoys that people are making these days, Greenhead Gear, Avian, Dave Smith, Bigfoot, everybody, man, like, the geese cannot tell the difference between a real goose and a decoy.
Well, that's the theory behind the new A-frame blinds, right?
What's the difference between a grass hide and an A-frame?
Nothing.
20 inches.
Yeah, 20 inches.
Yes, 20 inches. Okay, an A-frame blind is
Sure.
this high, 3.5 feet tall. Grass hide layouts, you're 2.5 feet tall.
Sure.
You're
Yep.
12 inches difference.
Yep.
What difference does that make at 400
Doesn't
yards?
make any difference at all. In fact, I know they've been doing that in Canada for 20 years.
50
I watched,
years.
Yeah, probably. I watched a video back at VHS days,
Yep.
a goose hunting video, where they were in a pea field.
Yep.
If anybody's ever seen a pea field, there ain't stubble. There
Nope.
ain't shit.
Nope.
There ain't shit to hide. They went out in this field. They went and got, like, pine boughs,
Yep.
built a rectangle out of pine boughs, and proceeded to shoot the shit out of these geese.
Yeah, they call them willow hides.
Yeah.
Stick
Or
hides.
willow, stick hides, whatever.
Stick hides
yeah.
and
like,
willow hides. Super effective.
Yeah.
Super
They
effective.
can't tell there's hunters in there. They don't fucking know what that is.
They don't care if there's grass. They don't care if there's trees. They don't care if there's trash.
They care about movement.
Humans.
They care about movement, and birds pick up movement. If you're a turkey hunter,
Movement will.
birds pick up movement like
And the only thing
nothing
that
else.
movement does is that reveal that you're a human.
Right.
And geese are naturally, instinctively afraid of humans. They only learn, like, to come to you.
Yeah, because
Like-
they're not afraid of cows. Cows don't shoot them.
Like, if you feed them corn, like city birds and like,
Yeah.
golf course
Right.
geese,
Yeah.
they kind of learn to, like, go to humans because they get fed.
Well, and they know when. They know where. They know their environment.
They do.
So the same geese that will flare on you in the field because
Yep.
you're watching them, your head's moving around watching them. That same goose goes back to his roost in Blaine.
And eats popcorn out of someone's hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
They know their area. And the same it can be said for deer hunting. I experienced this in Matamina too.
Oh, really?
These deer, I can damn near walk up to them when they're in my yard. When I would hunt them in the woods, 20 yards behind my house in the woods, they're as wary as any whitetail you've ever seen anywhere.
Yeah.
They're like, why do I smell human 20
Right,
yards
yeah.
into these woods?
They
They don't. They belong in the yard.
Right.
Why are they here?
Know. They know.
And they're like, something is not right. This is their home field
Right.
advantage. They know where people belong and they know where people don't belong.
You're so right. So right.
Movement, sure.
Dude,
well, how can I walk up to these things when I'm in the
100%.
park? Because you're not. They're used to you in the park.
Yes.
They're not
That's-
used to people in the field. Why do they land when a guy is baling hay? They're used to a guy in a tractor baling hay. They've never been shot by a guy baling hay.
It's not a threat.
It's what it is.
What's a threat? What's not a threat? Human being.
It's literally their
is a threat.
livelihood to
Yeah.
know what is a
Yeah,
threat.
they're good at
So,
it. Dude, birds are
has to
so
be or they die.
birds are so good at being birds.
It's selective harm. I mean, it's Darwinism at its finest.
Right.
The ones that are dumb, the ones that are reckless, the ones that don't heed those warnings, they get shot.
Yeah. They make
Plain and simple.
they make for an exciting
So
hunt.
going back to what we talked about before, like, are the geese smart? Are they educated like people say? Or did you already pick out the dumb ones?
Vulnerable versus non-vulnerable.
Yeah, the vulnerable ones get killed. The wary ones, we have,
And on some
you
weather
know, people. The people that are just like, they don't trust anybody, they don't trust anything. Maybe they're pessimistic, like, oh, what's going to happen today? What next? This it, right? They walk through life super cautious of everything. The guy that's willy-nilly, that's like, fuck, doesn't matter. He's the one that's going to end up getting in trouble.
Right. And
He's walking in a neighborhood he shouldn't walk. It's fine. I'll be fine. And then he gets mugged, right? Like,
some of
was
these
the other guy
conditions too.
smart? No, he was just wary. Like, he was just afraid of his own fucking shadow.
Right. And
But
like,
it kept him safe.
right. And every goose gets vulnerable. Doesn't matter if you're 15 years old or 5 months old.
Well, it's evidenced by bands. I mean,
Yeah.
people shoot ancient-ass bands where they can't even read the fucking numbers out of them.
Yeah, they get vulnerable at times. But like you said, too, like, they know their environment. They know that people feed them on golf courses. They know that there shouldn't be a human 2 miles outside of town in a cornfield.
Right.
They're like, no, human shouldn't be here.
No,
No.
something's weird.
Yep.
This isn't right. But a clump of grass that's not moving
You know what's weird,
is
too?
not a threat.
You ever gone out to lunch on a honker hunt, come back, there's geese in your spread?
Oh, it's happened, yes.
Yeah, many times.
Yeah.
No calling.
None.
Sometimes blinds open.
Yeah, doors wide open.
You know what I really, 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 really think it is like human presence.
People.
They're fucking scared of people. They're not even scared of your layout blind because your layout blind is aluminum tubing and fabric.
It's not moving.
It's not a human.
They have no reason to it's not moving.
No.
They have no reason to look at it.
No.
Look at the trash that's in any given agricultural field.
Right.
Maybe an abandoned car on the corner, maybe some old implement that's been sitting there rusting in some tall grass for 30 fucking years.
Right.
I don't give a
Well,
shit.
this is something, too,
a
that
fence post. Like, I had this argument years ago. It was like, you always have to be in the middle of the field. Dude, I've seen geese on the fence line.
They're
I've
mostly on the
seen
fence
geese
lines.
walking damn near in the fucking ditch 10 feet off a road. They're not in the middle of the field. So we talk about a grass side. I'll use a fence row. I'll use
People
trees.
People doubt it. People doubt it. Like that grass hide in the middle of the field. You're not going for 100% success ratio. Maybe you're going for 20%.
Going for those vulnerable geese.
Maybe you're going for 10%. Maybe you're going for 5%.
Yeah.
5% of geese decoy out of 2,000.
You're doing good.
Yeah.
You're doing good.
You're doing
Yeah,
really
you're
good.
You're
You're
gonna
gonna shoot your
good day.
limit. And like when you take your picture, like nobody knows the difference,
Would you rather have so the limit is 3 in the regular season here in Minnesota,
Sure.
5 in the early season. So let's say it's the regular season. You have one flock that does it right, and you're 100% in your shooting. One and you're done. Would you rather have that, or would you rather kill 1 out of 3 different flocks?
3 different flocks.
I
Because I can check them.
completely
I can
agree.
Yeah, I can
You're
check
blind.
'em.
That's not even me. Like, I like the interaction with the geese. So like
More
one and done,
action
you're
than-
almost like, well, now what the fuck are we gonna do?
Yeah, I've done one and dones.
I've done it too, but they're just not as satisfying.
No, and especially when they don't decoy.
Yeah, that's
I've had many one and dones where they just kind of like fly over you, and you're like, then they're like,
pump,
"Eh,
pump, pump.
well, nah. And you're like, shit.
Could shoot those, but no, I'm not gonna.
Shit.
There wasn't any bling. No bling. Is that empty again?
No.
Oh, I was like, holy shit, you're putting them down. I have 3, you have 3. Oh, 4 empties. You're okay, I'm not that far behind. That's really good. That summit is awesome. That's an Oktoberfest.
Okay, so what were we hitting on? Like migrator days.
We talked about calling.
Calling is the number 1 for Canada geese. Number 1.
Yeah, I believe. I agree with you.
And
on that
the number 1 for ducks is spinners.
in fields.
In fields and for
I
migrators.
don't think they're as effective on water.
Agreed.
How about the
But
how about the spinner in a goose field controversy? Do you shut your spinners off?
100%, yeah.
Okay.
You only get about probably 5% decoy action on geese with a spinner running.
Does that mean if geese hit a field first, the geese aren't going to hit that field? That's kind of my theory on it. Like I'm actually not sure where I stand on this, but I'm a little bit like, does that make sense?
What?
Are we overthinking this? Like turning the spinners off for the geese?
No,
Like-
you should.
Well, why? What if mallards are working the field? Is a goose not going to work that field just because mallards are working that field?
Mm-hmm. The goose won't work that field because your spinners are on.
But okay, but let's take hunters out of it. But I mean, like you're watching a field from your truck, has a mixture of geese and ducks in it. If the ducks hit it first, are the geese not going to hit it?
No, they will. They intermix.
Well, that's what a spinner is, just mimicking the spinning wings of a.
It just
the
doesn't work.
flapping wings of a mallard.
It just doesn't work that way in real life.
You might be right. You probably are right.
In real life,
It just seems to me
you're
like.
going to decoy like 5% or less of Canada geese.
But what's more damning, that spinner running, or you jumping out of your blind to go turn it off?
The spinner.
Really?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, for sure. I will for sure risk burning a flock, or even burn the flock and then try
They
to.
do have remotes now.
Yeah,
so,
they
I
do
mean,
have
get
remotes.
with the
Just to,
times,
like go click it off if I
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah.
And another thing I do too, when I'm doing a mixed hunt where I know there's mallards, we do a lot of these hunts like on the East Metro, where you get a lot of like fresh birds kind of moving through, and there's a mixture of Canada geese and there's a mixture of mallards. We do handheld spinners, so we do what is it? The Lucky Duck. Lucky Duck. God damn it!
I probably have something in that entryway over there.
It's not a duck body. It's just a brown.
Okay.
Like
Like those wing things?
Yeah, it's like the wing things.
Just a single
Right.
spinner?
Right. But I'll just handheld. Keep it in my blind with me. If I see mallards, I'll just hold it above my blind.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much the calling works on geese. I mean, on ducks.
No, the calling is visibility. It works great, but the number one visibility thing for a mallard is wings. If you notice, every species of duck has a white underwing. White.
Right.
Out of all their color variations. Every single color variations, from the red to the greens,
To the grays, the blacks.
to the grays, to the blacks, to the iridescence, to everything. Every single species of duck has a white underwing. This isn't accident. This is evolution, you know?
Sure.
And
Well, looking up at the sky, it's
I think
camouflage.
the duck's number one tool they use for migration safety is visibility through a flasher. And the flasher ducks use are their white underwings.
Yep.
When a duck back flaps, it shows every duck above it its white underwing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the safety mechanism that geese use is more sound-based.
Sure.
So I think ducks use more visual-based, and I think geese use more
That
sound-based.
makes sense, because ducks in general are just flashier.
Right. And like
so
geese,
if
you
if
don't
you think about evolutionarily,
what motion.
why are ducks vibrantly colored? Most of the drakes. They're proving that they can stick out and survive. So they are showing, they are displaying to the females, here I am, I ain't afraid of nothing. I survived. I'm good at surviving. You want these genes. Where obviously that would work against the hen that has to sit on the hens and incubate them. Like, they can't be showy. They need to blend in. That's why hens generally are drab and they blend into their surroundings. So that makes sense that ducks would be more visual, because when you look at geese, they're generally pretty drab.
Right. And they blend into
Except for
fields.
the
They're very
red-breasted-
camouflaged.
The red-breasted
Geese
goose
don't. The only goose
is
that has any
badass.
color variation between male and female, or any color variation at all, are white-fronted geese.
Really?
Yes, that's the only goose with any color variation.
What's
And
the
bars.
variation?
The bars.
Really? Do only the drakes have bars?
Nope. They have different bars on their chest, depending on genetics. People think it's age, but it's not. It's not age. It's genetics. In terms of like how black,
Like a full tar belly,
tar belly.
which is black.
That's the only goose in existence is greater white fronts and lesser white fronts that have any sort of color variations.
You want to talk about controversy? Let's get into this controversy. So, like, you're talking about, there's only one breed of goose where you could determine a male from a female. That's what you're telling me.
Oh, no, not male from female.
Oh.
No, just they're the only goose with any sort of color variation.
Oh, color variation. Oh, I got you. I
Period.
see what you're
Yeah,
saying. There's
yeah.
variation in their color pattern.
Yeah. Because
okay.
of their bar breasts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Obvious discolor. But okay, we could split hairs. Like, you get the goose with the white eyebrow.
Yeah.
You got the quill goose
with the white
with
chest.
some white patches here and there. So there's some variance.
Shitloads of interior geese get
there's-
the white elbows.
Yeah, there's some.
Yeah.
but it's not obvious.
Right.
It's not as obvious as debarring like you're talking about.
Right.
But I do want to get into this because I think it's bullshit that we have hen limits on mallards.
Yeah. It is bullshit.
100% bullshit.
It is 100% bullshit.
Because you can't tell a drake teal from a hen teal.
Nope.
In the season that they are in season.
Nope.
You obviously can't tell a difference between a male and a female goose of any kind. Their populations are clearly doing fine.
Exactly.
But now you have a hen limit only on mallards.
And only on the most abundant species of
I
duck.
was just going to say, which is the most populated duck species
on
the planet. It used to be in the northern hemisphere, but now they're even in New Zealand.
Every hemisphere.
So it's the entire globe, the most populated bird on the planet, and you have a hen limit.
The least threatened species.
It makes no sense.
The least threatened species of any duck.
If you're going to do it on any species, it should be like canvasbacks or pintails where you're setting a 1 or a 2 limit depending on the year.
Right.
Or even a bluebill. Like, if you're like, well, it's too hard to tell on the wing. Well, then why do you have a hen limit? It doesn't make sense.
It makes me
just
wonder.
Making people get tickets
criminals.
For no fucking reason
well,
whatsoever.
how many hen mallards do you think, when you think about it, how many hen mallards are getting buried in a marsh by somebody's boot?
You know, there's probably a couple, but it's really probably not that many. And
opposed to served on a dinner table, though.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. And somebody's like, well, a dead hen doesn't lay any eggs. Yeah, true.
But does that affect the population?
But it doesn't affect the population.
Are we affecting the population? A good thunderstorm will fuck up ducks worse than a bunch of good duck hunters.
Has shown that hunter harvest is negligible under our current structure. We're not talking pot guns and market hunters. We're talking a dude in a boat with 3 shells in his gun.
It wasn't punt guns that fucked them ducks up.
And a set limit.
Dude, I was reading this book about market hunting.
Yeah. What's the book? What book?
It's called Outlaw Gunner.
Outlaw Gunner.
It's a lot of East Coast shit.
I'll probably read it because
it's cool.
I like
it's
that shit.
Really cool. You know what killed the punt gun? The Browning A5.
Really?
Yeah. Dudes back in 1905 is
semi-automatic.
Yeah, semi-automatic. Dude, them guys had mag tubes back in the day that went past their barrels.
X-rail, bro.
Dude, you think X-rails are new? Them things came out in about 1905 and a half. You know what I mean? And market hunters found that they were killing much more ducks with semi-automatic 14, 15 shots.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's pray and spray with the punt guns. You can't swing them, right? So they're permanently fixed to your boat.
Yeah.
And you're trying to sneak up maybe on
your bait pile.
Yeah, on a bait pile or something like that.
That's what people did. Yeah. They'd use that lantern.
Yep.
Yeah, that lantern on the front of the boat. Then they got the punt
and they're
gun.
Putting washers in there.
Nope.
And they use a bunch of different shit.
Nope. That's folklore, actually.
Is it really?
Yep. Nobody ever used it.
Not knowing what the fuck I'm talking about.
Washers, nuts, bolts were much more expensive than lead shot.
That actually makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So people were saying that people use all sorts of crazy shit in punt guns. Not the case. Lead shot was the cheapest thing you could buy.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Just repeating shit I heard, like everybody else.
Right? That was another thing that book actually talked about, Outlaw Gunners.
That's why I like the books. You gotta read books. Books have facts. People have bullshit.
Yeah, it's super fascinating about how there was a really good market for wild ducks into the 70s, maybe even the early 80s, but that shit really isn't going on these days.
No.
I mean,
well, you can't. You can't serve a wild duck in a restaurant.
You can't sell them.
You can't.
What am I gonna do if I kill 100 canvasbacks? Fucking sell them? Who would I know to sell 100 No.
And the American public right now wouldn't like them because they would be gamey. Dude, I like my food bland.
Dude, the American public only eats 4 animals.
Seriously.
Turkey, chicken, pig, cow.
Look at your vegetables. We don't even eat that many vegetables.
Right. Yeah.
I when we got it, I was explaining to you what full scale is. I also forage, and I'm learning the wild greens and stuff that you can harvest out in the wild. Almost everything you pluck from your garden is edible, and vastly more nutritious
Right.
than what you're trying to grow. This doesn't taste as good. I mean,
Right.
to be honest. I mean,
And, like-
dandelion is great for you, but I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you till when I pick up a dandelion leaf and eat it that it tastes good. There's ways you can make it taste good, but it's bitter as fuck. It
But
doesn't taste
look
good.
at like a pheasant. A pheasant's a chicken.
Yeah, it's a wild chicken.
It's a wild
Chinese
chicken, and like I can cook
And
it.
it's an invasive species. How about that?
I can cook it. Yeah, no shit. I can cook it to where it tastes identical to chicken, but it's not as convenient to eat. Like they've like in chicken, they've gotten rid of all those tendons in the legs.
They don't walk.
Yeah, they've gotten rid of. They've fattened up those breasts.
What people consider tender, I consider mushy because
Right.
I have chickens. And when I butcher one of my chickens, they're free. They go where the fuck they want. They get killed on the road all the time.
Right.
The dumb ones the vulnerable ones get killed.
Right.
The not vulnerable ones don't get killed. But when I butcher them, they're on. So some people would consider that tough, and I'm like, it's firm. It's not tough. It's firm. Like it has this bird walked. It used its muscles. It's just how you eat it.
Yo, I gotta pee, man.
Yeah, right there. That door right there.
All right, tell
I'll
a story.
if I have stories, but it's easy to do when it's this subject because going on the head, everybody that knows me is like, nope, other door to your right. There you go. Got it. Perfect. Nick knows a lot about goose hunting, but he's got a weak bladder. Can't hang. I got like a camel's bladder. It's just is how it is. But that hen thing, I really want to talk to whoever sets these waterfowl rules. I need somebody to convince me that having that hen mallard limit makes any sense whatsoever. And we can also even get into how in Canada there's no hen limits and they have a more liberal limit structure. I believe you can shoot 8 ducks in Canada, and we generally can only shoot 6 in the southern states depending on the year. So you could shoot in Canada, which is the duck factory, the prairie sector. It's like the duck factory of the northern hemisphere. You could take a full limit of hens. It's not going to affect the population. I don't know why we're still clinging to this antiquated law. It's just causing problems. I mean, I think most hunters in general kind of police themselves, like especially in this day and age of social media where you like to post your hunts and you're going to take pictures. Honestly, a picture of a bunch of Drake mallards is a better picture. It's just a better picture. So I think hunters are going to police themselves and they're going to still choose to shoot drakes versus hens. But if somebody shoots a limit of hens, so fucking what? It's still overall the percentage is going to be less. I don't know if you heard me. I was talking about Canada.
No, I didn't.
Like,
I didn't.
In Canada, so I went into the hen thing talking about in Canada they can shoot 8 ducks.
8.
And there's no hen limits.
No hen limit. Yep. Want to know some troll shit? I've always wanted to do.
Do it.
I've always wanted to do like an 8 to 10 man hunt in Canada.
All hens.
All hens.
I'm in. Let's do it.
all
Let's
hens.
set it up.
And
Let's
then-
set it up.
And then everybody puts on a black ski mask.
We joke about this every season.
Take our-
hens only, bro.
Hens only. Hens only. Yeah.
We got our hen limit. We got our hen limit. Let's go home.
Well, you know,
I'm in.
one
I'm in.
thing-
I will do it. I will do it. Let's go to Canada.
One thing that is kind of startling and not good, from the mid 70s or early 70s till now, is duck hunter populations have decreased in most areas by about half. And in some areas, up to about 70%.
That's outdoor activities across the board.
Across the board, yeah.
When it comes to, I mean,
So
I
they're
should say
saying-
wildlife activities.
So-
I mean, like biking is still
Okay,
whatever,
like-
hiking is still, but
I try to have a perspective on laws, and in the 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, 20s, where you have this huge market for cheap meat, very
Yeah.
inexpensive duck meat, where a lot of consumers were buying it, and a lot of people were taking ducks beyond legal means. But when I say beyond legal means, I don't mean shooting an accidental hen. I mean you go out at midnight and you set 30 fucking traps.
Yeah.
And you go out the next morning and you collect your traps,
Right.
and you got 300 ducks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
massive amounts.
massive
And
amount.
it's not just waterfowl. We did everything in our effort to nearly wipe off every edible thing on this that walked and had a heartbeat on this continent. I mean, the buffalo are gone, the elk were gone, the deer were gone. I mean, there was a time when somebody saw a deer track where they called everybody like, "Holy shit,
Right.
there's a deer track here." Now,
There's some studies
they're
now.
like Canada geese are fucking everywhere.
They've published some studies now that have shown that if we eliminated a limit altogether, that there's really not enough hunters anymore to affect the population.
And it's probably true.
And it is probably true. And also, our hunting tactics have changed, where a lot of guys really are just hunting, for 5 or 6 ducks a day.
Yeah.
If that's the limit, that's the limit. Who needs more than that? You're not selling ducks. There's no market for ducks any longer. It's 2019. It's not 1967.
Right. I'm okay with erring on the side of caution. I'm okay with having limits. Like I wouldn't be a proponent of, even if like what you said could be proven that even if there was no limits because of the drop in hunters are not going to affect the population. I still like the idea of limits.
I do
I think
too.
it sets a good baseline for building ethics.
But think about every single day every day you hunted that you didn't limit out,
Most of them.
the limit didn't matter.
Yeah.
The limit made no effect on your hunt.
Right.
You shot as many ducks as you possibly could.
Right.
That's for most
Well,
people,
and we
for
could-
and for me too.
And that could
That's
cro-
80%
that could
of your
cross
hunts.
over. Like there's a thing going on right now. There's a petition, and they're trying to get for fishing. They're trying to get 2 lines approved for summer use. In Minnesota, we can only use 1 line. And in a way, I agree because I'm like, well, the limit is your limit. Does it matter if you get your limit in 30 minutes, or does it matter if you get your limit in 10 hours?
I agree.
You can still only take your limit.
Your limit.
So I guess let people have 2 lines. I don't give a shit. Me personally, I probably wouldn't use 2 lines. The only time I would use 2 lines if I was trolling is gay. I wouldn't do that. Or catfishing. You're setting baits out, fishing on the bottom. All right, that'd be nice to have more lines, right?
About
In the winter time's great. You have holes. You got to tip up out maybe, and you have 1 jigging rod.
Right.
Okay, yeah, 2 lines, great for that. Which we can use 2 lines in the winter. Wisconsin uses 3. But whatever. I mean, my point is your limit is your limit.
Your limit's your limit, and that's kind of like why I've got 2 laws that I agree with when it comes to waterfowl hunting. 2. And that's season dates and daily limits.
Not lead shot.
Nope, I don't agree with that law.
Oh, I think there's some science that would disagree with you with that.
I agree. That doesn't mean with the dramatic decline in hunters, though, there's a dramatic decline in lead shot
That's true.
that is
but
being distributed.
But I think modern shot and modern chokes and modern guns are making these weapons pretty lethal.
Right, and
Don't
there's a
think
lot
you
of
need
good
lead.
non-lethal options now,
Yeah.
like bismuth, which isn't
Bismuth,
too expensive.
tungsten.
Tungsten's pretty goddamn expensive.
It's expensive, but I mean, it's,
If you look up the ballistics on this shit compared to steel, it is unreal.
bismuth,
Bismuth, tungsten,
tough word.
everything.
Bismuth.
Like what do they weigh that shit in like
It comes down to expandability.
grains per cubic centimeter or something like that.
Yeah.
Grains per cc or something. Like steel is like 7, lead's like 11, bismuth is right up around there, 11 or 12. Tungsten's like 14 or 15,
I
and
think it comes down to, is it mass? Am I trying like energy, like the energy distribution, like how much energy, how much knockdown power does it carry?
right.
And so the denser it is, obviously it's going to have
Right.
more weight. But then it's also like the malleability of it. So does it expand? So lead's really soft. So not only does it carry weight, it hits harder. When it hits, it expands because
Right.
it's soft. So now it's creating a bigger, it's
Wound
more
channel. Yeah,
damage.
yep.
So it's where it's steel, we've all witnessed that. It like zips right through them. It doesn't.
I'm a big proponent of using premium shot shells in the late season. And by late
I'm a
season,
proponent of using what works, what patterns out of your gun the best.
right. if you have ever considered using like bismuth or tungsten heavy shot, I'm a big fan of using it after about like the November 10th dateline.
And is that just because more fat,
Yes.
denser feathers?
Yep. Denser feathers, more fat. And that's where it really starts paying for itself there. We'll almost call it like catch and release goose hunting. Well, you see the feathers pop.
Yeah,
you see the feathers pop off and they fly away.
Seen that. We're like, I know I hit.
My
that
biggest
goose and it
eye
just
opener
didn't
was
die.
a trip I took last year where we went to a really, really northern area for a very, very late season hunt, and we were shooting what we always shoot: 2-shot steel. That's just standard. And I mean, we were catch and release goose hunting, and
That's frustrating.
it's a little frustrating.
It's frustrating, and a lot of times those geese are gonna die later, which just sucks.
It does, and I hate seeing that. I hate seeing that because they could be banded.
I'm just not that much of a band hunter, so it's not that important to me. But it's funny when you bring up like they could be banded.
Yeah, like
Are you kidding me?
if I shot a goose, I need to check that thing. I don't care if it flew like a mile away.
You know what I do kind of like? It sucks because you have to actually go retrieve those. But the bird that you hit, and you know it's like hard or long shot, and it's still flying. Like keep your eye on that bird.
Everybody,
that is
everybody.
Dead bird.
Yeah, everybody.
And it gets like a half mile away, and then the wings just stop beating and
Get a
it
mark.
plummets. You're
Get a
like,
mark.
fuck,
Get a
we gotta
mark.
go find. Like,
We're
it
going.
sucks because you have to retrieve it, but I actually like watching it. Like,
Yeah.
It's like, I know that bird is dead. Watch that bird.
Yeah, I don't.
And then it just crumples. You're like,
I don't
yep,
let it-
it's dead.
I don't want a single bird getting shot and not getting retrieved.
Yeah, me either. I think most.
What if?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, yours is the bad thing.
What
I just
if?
don't like to me that's wasted resource. That's just like it died for no reason. I'm not so much on the band thing.
True.
I mean, I like bands.
True, but a
Don't
thunder.
get, like getting
I
banned
mean,
is just
like,
cool.
yeah, I mean, like a thunderstorm will come through overnight and kill 1,000 ducks for no reason.
Sure, yeah, hailstorm is
Yeah, who gives a shit?
gonna fuck a bunch.
Nobody
fuck a
feels
bunch
bad
of
about the hailstorm.
Yeah,
I feel
well,
bad if
'cause I
that.
don't have control over. Whether
I feel
it hails
bad-
Or not.
I feel
have
bad if
control
that-
whether or not I pull a trigger.
I feel bad if that band's not on my lanyard.
Are those all your bands?
Yeah.
Let me see that thing. So I'm assuming these colored ones are pigeons.
Yeah.
Which I haven't shot a banded pigeon yet. Some dude out there with a racing pigeon is super pissed at you right now.
Nah. What I like
Dude,
to
those
think.
pigeons get jacked by hawks all the time.
Yeah. And people race them all, or not
Yeah,
race them.
race them,
They
yeah.
race them and they train them.
Do you get the somersault pigeons, whatever the fuck those things are
Rollers.
called? Rollers.
No, I don't have any roller bands actually. I think I got like 15
How would
pigeon-
you know?
They actually do use different bands to distinguish the
really?
rollers, yeah.
She's like a band expert.
Yep, they do. You know that
I want some colored
on bands, like the last
So is this a pigeon one? These really thin ones?
Yep. That's just a clip band.
Okay.
That's just like like all these pigeon bands. They go by years, by
buy
colors.
I buy mallard ducklings every year,
Oh, do you?
and they just disappear. I should band them.
So you see this? This is a cackler band. Okay, 1537. That's the first 3 or 4 digits.
Yeah.
7, the last digit. That's the band size.
Really?
Yeah. So all these geese are.
So
all these
right,
geese
hold
are
on.
8. All these giant Canadas are 8.
Here's
8.
my-
8.
Here's
8.
a snow goose band. I got
That's a size 7.
2097.
Yep, 7.
7's the size.
7's the size. And each size has an A and a B. So mallard bands are size 7s as well. This is my mallard band. This is a size 7A.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Yeah, 7.
Whoops.
Size 7A.
Just trying to steal my
And then they
band.
use
has 100.
size 7s. They use size 7s for cacklers and snow geese and Ross
Well,
geese.
if I knew where the fuck my fucking calls were, I'd show you. I have a giant honker band that I got from South Dakota or
And
from North Dakota.
If you ever find a band and it's a size 9, where the last digit of the prefix is a 9, pelican.
Really?
Yep.
Just they ban the shit out of those. I've heard.
Yeah, they do a lot of banding studies on
Because
all.
that's just when they trap them again, they can
every
read
sp-
it, right?
yeah, every species of
Yeah.
bird actually really
down to
have-
hummingbirds.
Hummingbirds have
Yep.
bands. Yep.
I haven't shot a banded crow yet. That'd be cool.
Banded crow would be awesome.
That'd be sweet. So you talked about you put out when you're shooting pidge during your goose hunts. I like to put out crow decoys when I
Okay.
goose hunt.
Okay.
Those things decoy like a dream.
Crows?
Crows.
Really?
Yeah.
They're smart.
Crows. They are, but they
They are
decoy
smart.
like a dream.
They are very smart.
And I'm not convinced that they either help or hurt. Actually, I know they don't hurt honkers.
No.
They'll
It
fly
wouldn't hurt
over
your,
crows.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But the crows, they decoy to them like, oh, that's awesome.
You done much pigeon hunting?
Just not intentionally. Like we haven't done a pigeon hunt, which we talk about it all the time in the off season, but then we just never do it. But yeah, we'll shoot pigeons while we're hunting for sure. We love when pigeons are around. It gives you
Pigeon
downtime.
hunting. It's like waterfowl hunting, but it's not waterfowl hunting.
No.
There's some things you have to learn.
They decoy really good too.
They decoy fantastic. And
They like
they see
spinners.
feathers. They see feathers better than other species of birds. Like
I believe it because they have a lot of iridescence.
Yeah, they do.
in their feathers. Yeah.
I've heard people say that about sandhill cranes too.
Really?
Like when they hunt cranes, like there's
Well, a lot of guys use stuffers
stuffers, yeah.
because they'll get really decoy shy with
And if
anything
you were to
but.
ask me, like, what my ideal pigeon spread is, like, what do I want for a pigeon decoy spread? 6 stuffers. That's all I want.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I don't care.
They like spinners.
They like spinners,
They
and
eat
they
those fuckers right
and they
up.
like dead birds. They like
Yeah.
they like real feathers.
real birds. Yeah.
If I'm hunting like a big wheat field, like a 100-acre wheat field, I usually let the spinners run for like the whole hunt. But like a cattle pen or a tight little area, I probably won't let those spinners run past 5 or 6 dead birds. Once I have 5 or 6 dead, that's my decoy spread now.
Yeah.
That's working better than spinners.
Sure.
It's weird.
Yeah,
I've heard people
I
say-
believe it because they're super iridescent. And like we talked about with ducks, it makes sense that ducks are more visual because they have vibrant colors.
The white underwing, yeah.
Geese don't. They're more drab, so
Yep.
the vocalizations make more sense, and it definitely makes more sense with pigeon because they do when you look at a pigeon, they really are iridescent. They have a lot of
Right.
colors going on that a lot of people take for granted, but there's a lot going on.
Right. And
with those
pigeons are
and they taste good. Like people are like, these things are gross. Like gross city. I'm like, have you eaten one? Because they actually taste pretty good. It's a dove. They're actually rock doves. They're not even a pigeon technically.
And you know why they call them rock doves? Because they live in cliffs.
They live in cliffs, which is what a skyscraper is.
That's what a skyscraper is exactly. Yep,
It's just a cliff.
And a lot of people hunt pigeons in areas near cliffs. But yeah, that kind of like makes me think that there's some sort of like evolution that's developed to like let pigeons see the feathers.
Sure.
Like, so they know where their little coveys
Oh,
are.
sure. That
like,
could be a little bit
they-
of light reflecting off.
Yeah,
them.
because they camouflage. They camouflage against the rocks.
Right.
Except to each other.
It would kind of, I guess you'd have to look at like their main prey, which is like falcons and hawks. So on a scientific level, you have to see like how do hawks and do they see those
Right,
iridescents or
right,
do they
right,
not? Because
yeah.
hawks aren't iridescent. So
That's-
maybe they can't. So maybe that, like you said, the evolution, like they evolved this iridescent, they can see each other, but it doesn't
Right.
make them
Right.
stick out.
Dude, everything's
To the
for a reason.
predator.
Like one
Oh,
thing
for
I've noticed.
sure.
One thing I've noticed with
And it's
like,
by default. Like it's just
Yeah.
like the ones that stick out get killed. The ones that don't stick out get.
When
And we
you do-
also have to find each other to breed. So it's not like this. They talk about the like intelligent design. It's by default. It's
Right.
what doesn't work. So they don't breed. They don't
Right,
pass on their
right,
genes.
yeah.
What works.
like when you're pigeon hunting, if you get too many dead birds, like walking around, or I mean cripples,
You got dead birds walking around, bro.
cripples walking around, them flocks will land with those cripples. If you get too many dead birds around your blind, you got to get them things like 12,
out.
18 yards in front of your blind.
Put them underneath.
Them birds,
Put them underneath your shells.
they key
Breast up.
in. Breast
We
up.
talked
yeah.
about this.
Oh shit! What time is it, man?
I don't know. We're getting almost to 3 hours on this podcast. We should probably wrap it up.
Yeah,
we'll
it's
have
like
to
a
do-
Joe Rogan or something.
Yeah, for shit. No, for real.
Well, shit, man. I mean, we
We'll
could
have
cover
to do it again, but
we could cover band hunting, goose hunting, duck hunting.
we'll have to do it again. Usually, my theory with this podcast was like I like to do something with my guests so that we kind of get the icebreakers out of the way, and then when we do sit down, it's more casual, which we didn't do. I mean, I just contacted you via Snapchat. You were willing to do it, which was awesome. You didn't know me from Adam, so I appreciate taking a chance, coming up with some creeper who lives in Stacy to do this podcast.
Yeah, no problem.
I did offer you beer, so there's
five
that.
of them. Five of them actually.
It wasn't a loss.
You're also offering me an Uber home.
Right. I'd probably drive you home if you need to.
No.
You could sleep down here if you really needed to. So we'll have to do this again. I'd like to, we'll have to get together and pigeon hunt or goose hunt or whatever. I'm in for the all hen hunt. I am in this.
We're not doing that.
I am in. Let's troll people.
And if we do, we're not
us.
telling it. It was not us. It was not.
It's just our idea. Somebody stole it. But Nick Johnson, tell everybody how they can find you. Your social media platforms, all that shit.
Look me up on Instagram. It's Nick_A_Johnson. Look me up on Snapchat.
2 underscores.
Yep. Snapchat is njohnson2367. Look up my username.
Is it just Nick Johnson on Facebook?
Nick A. Johnson
Nick A. Johnson.
Yeah, because there's like 5
Nick Johnson,
Nick
rare
Johnsons
name, bro.
that like Duck and Goose on hardcore like me.
And you guide through a couple different
Yep.
companies.
I'm a contract guide.
You're a freelancer.
Freelance guide. I'm a freelance guide. I'm a substitute teacher guide. So I might end up on your hunt one day if you book. You can always contact me. Ask me what guide services are doing well. Who should I book with?
Maybe I might book you in the future just because if Full Scale does branch out into waterfowl hunting, which I would like to do. There's an area of the state that's not really guided right now heavily.
There's a lot of them.
We focus on.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of opportunity out there.
There's actually a particular landowner that I just need. If it's going to take money, it's going to take money. But if I can land this one landowner, we are set. And in that case, maybe I'll give you a call and you can help guide through Full Scale. That'd be great.
Absolutely. And
give your number again though, so if people want to do the
calling lessons.
Yeah.
651-262-6468. Call or text me. 651-262-6468.
That's great. I might take you up on it. What are the rates?
I do $60 for 1 hour.
Okay.
And I don't do more than 1 hour.
Right.
Like, believe me, after an hour,
I might take you up on that.
You're done. You're done after an hour.
Because I actually did kind of the YouTube. Like I said, I'm good, but I'm not great. And I kind of want to elevate my calling a little bit. I do want to elevate my calling a little bit, but I feel like I've gone as far as YouTube can take me. I've watched a zillion things. I'm like, okay, I'm making these sounds.
Right.
And I'm not getting better.
Yep. So, like, with the lessons, it's like, here's what I need to learn, and here's what I need to practice.
Right.
You're not practicing pointlessly. You're practicing for a purpose.
Right.
Here's what I need to practice. Here's the reason I'm
practicing.
practicing.
And people out there, you do need to practice. You got to practice in the off season. You have to practice all the time. I use this example with my son all the time. He's a cello player and he's really good. He's a super talented natural musician, and he wants to make it a profession. And I keep telling him, you got to practice more. You got to here's the analogy I give him: LeBron James, Michael Jordan, arguably the 2 best players to ever play the game, to ever play basketball. I'm not even a huge basketball fan, but it's the most obvious example I can give. They don't just rest on their natural abilities. These motherfuckers are in the gym all the time. They're watching tape all the time. It's not enough just to be naturally good at it. You have to put in the extra effort.
Right.
You just have to. And that's just how it is. So you want to get better at calling?
And I will say too, if you're interested in advancing any aspect of a waterfowl lifestyle, if you want to be a waterfowler for your life, this is the way
you don't choose waterfowling, bro.
This is
waterfowling chooses you.
This is the way you want to live. Contest call.
Yeah, really.
Contest call. Get into
let's touch on that real quick. We're not quite to 3 hours. How does somebody get into contest calling?
To get into contest calling, you show up and you get your ass kicked.
Right?
Yeah.
It's even more basic than that. Where does somebody look to sign up?
www.callingducks.com.
There you go. There it is.
Callingducks.com
Is it the same for geese? Is it
Yes.
callinggeese.com?
Nope, callingducks.com
Okay.
has all your duck and goose calling contests, dates. They got a contest calendar for each and every month. I actually run a page on Facebook called Competitive Duck and Goose Callers. If you want to take your waterfowl lifestyle to the next level, and I mean seriously, you're looking for a guide job, like you want to travel the country 7, 8, 10 months a year and hunt for your living. You want to make a living somehow in the waterfowl industry. Your route is calling contests and not necessarily getting first place. Show up.
It gets you
Show up.
exposure.
Exposure.
Yeah.
Meet people.
Yeah.
We're carnies.
And
These people are
and
carnies.
do you share, like, you talk to fellow callers, I would assume?
Absolutely. Like
you share
we're
techniques.
techniques, and like you're gonna show up, you're gonna think you're a pretty good duck caller. Like, I'm pretty good at duck calling. I'm pretty good at goose calling. You're gonna get your ass kicked.
That's not that different from tournament bass fishing.
Right.
When I thought I was a pretty good fisherman. I mean, I outfish most of my friends all the time.
Right.
Until I joined a bass club.
Right.
And like, oh, these. okay,
yeah.
all right.
But that makes you up your game. That makes
my first trophy right there.
That makes you up your game when you
it does.
Like all of a sudden you go to I tell people, don't go to calling contests for the win. You go for the fun.
Yeah.
Because there's we're waterfowl carnies.
It's that commonality too.
Yeah,
like you're with people that have that share the same obsession that you have, and this is waterfowling is an obsession.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
If you just want to take that
when
obsession
I'm driving
to
anywhere,
the next level, yeah.
And I could be in a conversation with my wife, whatever, and I stop talking and I'm looking out the window, not at the road. She's like, geese? I'm like, yeah. Doesn't matter what month it is. Like, this just, I am tuned in to those animals. So, Nick, I really appreciate you coming out here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
We got to do this again.
Let's do it again. Anytime.
Yeah, that's sweet. There's just so many. This was a really information-packed podcast, but there's a lot we didn't touch on. So.
Dude, that was like 2% of my knowledge.
Yeah.
So let's do it again, and let's get into more controversial shit too.
We easily. I'm not afraid. I ain't scared.
I ain't scared neither. Let's
do it.
piss some people off.
We touched on killing hens. We're both pro hen killers. So
they banned them motherfuckers too.
Hell yes. So on that note, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you later.